wanted that the most. That was their number one request.
That has to be.
Well, I mean, I can give you, I sat at the JRC meeting the other night with Rick, and I can give you a better understanding of why they need something, why they needed to expand. They opened up the summer rec program at midnight on a specific day. I don't know what the day was. And at 12:11, it was completely full, 120 something kids, all Goshen residents, either Goshen residents or Goshen School District. And the reason I know this and Rick knows it is we had a resident there that night. Her son got into one and her other son didn't get into one because she wasn't quick enough to hit the buttons. So she was there complaining a little bit. I think with this expansion and next year, they could probably double the size of the summer rec program, which generates revenue for Park and Rec. It's not for free.
I understand that, but you're transferring $100,000.
That was for the
Well-
capital project of the building that.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
For this, you're transferring
Yes.
$100,000.
Not just for that, but just for, there are other things that are going on in the park that we're doing too. So, there's concrete work and things that have to get done, excavating work that has to get done. Regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, not just for the pavilion, for the major upkeep of the park. I mean, we have a responsibility to the residents of the town to keep it safe and to keep it clean and to keep it upgraded. So we're putting some security measures in on the bathrooms so that nothing happens at night because those bathrooms, if they aren't locked, they're left open. So we're spending about $10,000 on locks for those bathrooms that automatically open and close. And yes, you can shake your head, but that's part of prevailing wage. There's not much we can do.
Bob,
Yeah.
Bob, the parkland fees is for capital work
Right.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We give, in addition to that, we give $100,000 in this budget of monies to them to do other things that,
And the village gets it.
And the village.
the village gives them 75.
But the money that we collect from parkland fees is for the upkeep and continuing the safety of the parks, not for running the park and rec program.
Parkland fees are capital
Improvements only, correct.
Well, I still don't understand what the pavilion has to do with the summer rec.
There needs to be a place for the 125 kids to sit and eat lunch. And if it's raining, a place for them to go. It's rain or shine. That goes on all summer long.
And everybody else.
Yeah, everybody.
Fair that's there. Everybody uses that.
We've situated,
Yeah, well, what is the current pavilion?
what does it hold?
Yeah. People fit the current.
I'd say we're probably somewhere with the seating that we have in there, maybe 60 to 70 people could sit in there comfortably.
That's only 6 tables.
There's 8 tables in there now usable.
Just a quick note, as far as order here. This should probably be at the end for
Yeah.
a public comment. They
Yeah.
expanded outside of the
Yeah.
agenda, not to,
People
just to be critical,
Yeah,
it's
no,
because
people-
we're kind of
Yeah.
deviating from
Yeah.
the agenda now. So
people requested to speak on agenda items before we voted on it.
I'm fine with that, but we're now into the item itself.
Discussion of,
not,
right,
you
yep,
know,
I got you.
it's-
All right, well, we can further that discussion at the end of the meeting. All right, number, Bill?
Sorry, just a quick one on number one. I hope it's quick anyway.
Yep.
So apparently, you discussed at the joint rec, the Salesian. I wasn't there, but, so I'm getting feedback that the park will quote unquote be closed completely. And the concern then that came back to me was, well, we thought that there was gonna be access to the library. How are they gonna close the entire park and yet maintain access to the library? Have we worked that out?
Well, I'm sure that we'll be able to put a fence up that separates the two of them, even if it's just a safety fence.
Okay,
But mainly, we can't have anybody going into the dog park. It's right behind the building.
right, that I know.
It shouldn't affect the library at all.
Okay.
That's why the road was coming.
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
it's coming.
Yeah, well, they said, what came
Sure.
back to me was the whole park.
Yeah.
I thought.
Well, Sean
all
can
the
explain
walking
it.
Trails and everything, with the bathrooms and,
I might be able to answer that. I'm sure
Okay.
another town engineer.
okay,
I prepared the specifications for the demolition. The specifications, as you recall, which public may not be aware of, include an access road. We looked at it with Broderick.
Yeah.
You looked at it as well
Yeah.
for the new year. So the idea is that you would sever the connection with the fence between the library and the Salesian School building.
Mhm.
And then the contractor would utilize a driveway, which is not there yet, to
Right.
get direct access to
Correct.
Craig Road.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that answers, it. Thank you.
All right, well, anything else? All right, well, right into it. Review and award the bid for the demolition of Legion Building. So we had 4 bidders total. The bid winner on this is Ground Control Excavating at a cost of $1,369,468.37. Sean, you want to explain the process,
Sure,
bid,
Mr.
everything?
Supervisor. So you have before you a letter from my office. I reviewed the bid. I passed the bid on to the town attorney to review it. And essentially the bid that came in, it was competitive. You had 3 bids grouped very closely together, approximately 1.3, 1.4, $1.5 million. The bidder is not on the New York State disbarred contractors list and appears qualified to do the work. I am suggesting though, however, that you table this matter for this evening. And the reason for that table is that the contractor, who's actually here this
Yeah.
evening, indicated that he has the asbestos handling license from New York State. My understanding with talking to him today is that he is waiting for that license to be issued by the New York State Department of Labor. They provided proof to me, which I'll send to you, so you have it, that he actually did apply for the license and just has not received it yet. So rather than have you make an award to somebody that does not yet have the license, I would suggest that you table it until that he has that license.
Could we
Yeah,
pass it contingent upon what the day he gets the license?
right.
You technically could,
Right.
Doug, there's not an issue with that. But what could happen is, let's just say for whatever reason, the Department of Labor does not issue that license or does not issue that license in a timely manner. And timely in this case is 45 days, because that's how long the second lowest bidder is required to hold their price. So if the apparent low bidder doesn't have that license within 45 days, you may wish to move on to that second lowest bidder. So I want you to keep all your options open. That's why I'm suggesting that you take it.
Rory,
And the
any suggestions?
contractor's gonna do whatever he can to expedite that with
Yep.
New York State Department of Labor.
Yeah, I mean, I've had multiple conversations with town engineer. That was a kind of a consensus that we came to. I don't think we are harmed in any way by holding off a week, 2 weeks, whether it requires a special meeting next week or is tabled to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Sounds like we would still be able to meet our timelines that we are seeking to get this done. And still, the bid is in our world is significantly lower and certainly worth holding open while we await this application. It sounds like everything was done on the up and up there, so.
So what is?
I guess my only question would be, I mean, let's say it
Okay.
comes in tomorrow and then we gotta wait 2 weeks before we approve it.
No,
No,
we
not
don't. We
necessarily.
talked about that. We can hold a special meeting next week and just do it
Okay,
and get it
Yeah.
done.
as long as we don't.
Phil?
Thank you. So the question is, what is the general lead time for something like this?
To get the return on the application.
Yeah.
Well, that question it's kind of a moving target, Phil. I mean, it's in the sense that 2 years ago, it would have been a lot quicker. I think the Department of Labor and issuing licenses has been.
I'll give you the rundown of what I was told today. 3 to 10 days, he'll have it. His check's already been cashed. It's a paper process. That's
So
it.
it's not months and
Nope.
months.
3 to
No,
10
it should
days.
have
he'll have
been,
it.
on the
That's
timeline
perfect.
normally, it
Okay.
should have been issued or denied already. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
okay, good, perfect, yeah.
Yeah. And then if it's denied, then we move to the next bidder. And if it's accepted, then it sounds like we can come back and convene and.
If that's the only loose end, I mean, I would go forward and just make it a contingent of the approval.
The only
I'm
risk
just
that you
doing-
have is if it's not ready within 45 days because the state.
Well,
drags
then
their
he
feet, or
doesn't
maybe
need-
there's something in the applicant. Look, I don't issue these licenses. I can't tell you whether the applicant's qualified to have his license.
But if he doesn't get it, then the bid is not valid because it's contingent upon him receiving it. The point is, we want to move forward on this. We want the bid, unless there are other loose ends. It's like a planning board. If you have 6 things, it's approved contingent upon completion of all those 6 things. If he only has to complete one thing, then I agree with Doug. Why do I want to hold this thing
I
up?
just want to make it clean.
Yeah.
Because what can happen in this instance, Phil, and I'm sure you're aware, conditional bid could lead to the applicant, I'm sorry, not the applicant, the apparent bidder potentially challenging you if it falls through with the state. And it could also possibly lead to a challenge from the second low bid. I'm just trying to keep it clean and keep your liability reduced.
Based on the time frame in which this came in
Yeah.
to town engineer, and then by way of that to me,
Uh-huh.
my comfort level is similar to Sean's.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah.
weighing our equities here, it seems like,
Good.
smart.
You
Just
got
best
your
to-
comfort level? is
yeah, and
good
I don't think we're
enough for me?
harmed in any way by holding
Yeah.
off, and I think there's a little more uncertainty by approving contingent. So
Good.
that's my opinion.
I'm
And I
comfortable
hope
with that.
everybody's good with that, but I know Sean's on the same page.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Go ahead, George.
So, question I had is, I guess to the award winners, if you just getting your license now for asbestos abatement, is this your first job? So why don't, if you've had other jobs, why don't you have the license now? Or is it something that has to be renewed on a regular basis?
Or each job.
So each demolition job is unique in its own way. This is a unique demolition in the sense that the building's been condemned. And so this one does require an asbestos handler's license. We've applied for it. I know that it's gonna come through. I've done a significant amount of demolition for the governor's office of storm recovery. Probably in excess of $2 million worth of demolitions. And so that was never required on those particular properties. We have,
Is that because they weren't condemned?
they weren't condemned.
yeah, and also just to hop in, certainly,
So I don't want to condemn it to be.
so next time we'll think about that. when we're-
No, I
No,
thought
but
about it the last time.
In all seriousness, I mean, and this isn't my area of business, but again, there is a lot of times where this would be subbed out to people, but that, that could affect costs, so,
That was a
the
judgment
idea.
factor, and I didn't think we should have condemned it, so. but That's okay.
Well,
It's
first
done.
off, the building is not condemned. It's
not
not
condemned.
safe to enter.
Correct.
I'm not
And
sure.
Rory hit the nail
It's-
right on
it's-
the head.
It's not safe to take down in the standard fashion of mitigating
correct.
the asbestos first.
That's correct. And typically this contractor, their method would be you send in a subcontractor, they remove the pieces of asbestos that you have. And that's how originally, going back 10 years ago, we were going to approach this problem.
Yeah.
That's no longer an option for us. We have to treat all the building as asbestos containing
Right.
materials. Hence he needs a handling license.
Yeah, it's obviously, we know it's a unique project. There's not a ton of them around this area that you have a handler's license necessarily in-house at all times. This
Yes.
project makes it worthwhile.
George, you're right, you had a question.
Yeah, but
George?
to my knowledge, this building was not condemned.
Correct.
It's not,
Right.
We
We
had
didn't formally
discussions
condemn it,
about
right?
this and we
Yeah.
decided not to do that.
Right.
Correct, we didn't condemn it, but the license we're talking about is a handler's license to handle the asbestos. If the building was, if we were able to mitigate and remediate the asbestos without taking the building down, that's a totally different scenario.
Yeah, well, you're also looking at it from, and you can address this, but if he has the person in-house, right, this would be an employee of yours that would be, that you would have the handler's license for, correct? And
Yes.
if not, then it's got to be subbed out, which
Correct.
other bids factor in, which increases the cost if you're
Mhm.
subbing out, right? So that's the balance
I'm
that
good
you're
to go.
dealing with,
I
right?
don't know about anybody else, but I'm good to go.
George, anything else?
No, I don't know.
Rick?
I'm an asbestos handler. I have a license for it. So when I took my class, they told me that you're good now. You have 10 days before you get your license, your actual license in the paper.
That's exactly what they told us.
So you're good now. You're actually okay. You have your license.
And we supplied that.
Yeah, so
But that's my supervisor, is one of my employees.
Mhm.
He has that license.
Yeah.
We immediately applied for the contractor license to
Right.
be the handler.
Mhm.
Good.
The state took the application to cash the check,
Mhm.
and now we wait.
so yeah.
And we've called a dozen times today when we realized this was an issue, and they are telling me 3 to 10 days. they'll all-
Okay. Well, my point is, so you're good to go. We're just waiting for the paperwork. That's it. And then we
Yes.
can just go. All right.
Yes.
That's good, that's perfect. No problem.
All right, so how do we want to move forward? We want to table
Just
it
table
and
it.
have a
Table it,
special
yeah.
meeting, or do you
Yeah.
want to move forward with the?
Doesn't matter, you want to call it.
If it comes through and is satisfactory to Sean and myself, then I'll notify you and we'll call the special meeting. If it's up against a regular meeting and it's just a matter of days, then we'll just put it on the regular
On the regular
meeting,
meeting,
so it's just really when it comes
Because
in.
one of the things that we always wanted to accomplish was to do this as early in the spring as
No
we
doubt.
possibly could and get it down so that people can get back in there for the
Understood.
later spring and summer months. right?
I think we're still on, target for it to be completed when we set it out to be completed. It may
Yeah.
start.
We started this project 10 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
So, Mark,
I wasn't gonna say that.
Let's not waste our time.
Mark, if I can ask you a
Right,
question.
Right, let's not waste our time and move on.
I know when we spoke prior to this incident, we talked about timeframes, and you
Yeah.
told me that you would be able to start June 1st. It would take you approximately 6 weeks. The building would be down in the first week, which would limit anything, any asbestos or anything else that may, be airborne, which is not going to be airborne because it's a wet takedown.
Right.
Are we still on the same timeframes if we award this next week?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is 100% 1 week to take it down, and it is going to be dependent on how fast the trucks can come in and out safely. And it's roughly 120 trailer loads that's going to leave the site. So that's what you're going to see. And if I can load 10 a day, then it's out in 12 days. If it's only 3 a day, it's,
Okay.
Great.
Sean, as far as the road goes, the new road that we have to put in, are we doing that, or was that part of the bid?
Now,
The way we structured the bid was, I was unsure if you were going to be able to do that. So if you look at the back of the letter I gave you, there's a table.
Mhm.
The way the bid was structured was base bid, and then there was an additive for the
additive
contract.
number 257,000.
Yep.
And I was gonna make a comment if anybody was gonna, I was gonna say, let's just let it go.
Just let it go,
At
yeah, I agree.
$57,000. It's sort
Yeah.
of just,
So what we would do at that point, once the
Yeah.
contract is signed, the contractor will have to pull a permit from the county DPW. We've already gone through that they're going to allow it.
Yeah.
Because of insurance, they need contract to pull that permit.
Yep.
He'll pull that permit, build the road, and then start bringing in equipment and knock the building down.
Sean, I have a question before we're talking about it. There's a supposedly, and I don't know, a time capsule in that building. Are we
Yeah.
making provisions to?
Do we know where it is?
So on the time capsule, you brought this up at the end of last year, and I actually pulled plans that Mary had in her office from 1915. I couldn't find it on those plans. If there's anybody that has any idea where it
Yeah.
might be, let me know.
Yeah.
And we'll try to do our
Well, we were
best.
thinking
on-
about talking to the Salesian Order. They're the ones who built it and probably could have put it in, and it wasn't made part of the plans. They did it some other time, but I don't know that.
well, there's someone, I went up and looked at it. It's supposedly on the left, in the front door, on the left pillar, right on the bottom of the left pillar of the front door. It looks like there's a delineation of that, and someone, I forget, had mentioned it. So when I looked at it, I think we need to be sensitive to that area.
To the best we can to recover.
Yeah, I think there is one out there, and I think we ought to, if we need to, even go to the Salesian Order to figure out who was in charge at the time.
So when we get a chance, and we start this process, we can take a ride up to,
I will
show
be
them
up
where it
there-
is, and
I'll be up there through the whole project.
Yep.
So it's not,
am I getting you RV to sleep there?
not quite, but I'll be,
Get your asbestos license.
I'll just wear my mask,
I'll let
my
you-
surgical
I'll let you
mask.
use mine.
Yeah,
Since-
right.
since-
All right, so-
Since we went to,
Yeah.
the last page, I was going to ask, I was hoping, so I asked tonight, but I did have a question about the temporary water. I noticed that this particular bidder has a 15.5 for water, and they are supplying all their own water. Is that
That's
what
what
it
the
is?
requirement is, yep.
Right, because
If,
all the rest of them had quite a bit, quite a bit more for that. And
if
So
that
in-
option is
in-
exercised, and it's completely up to him, so let's say it costs 25,000, I'm just throwing a number out.
Yeah.
It exceeds the amount he bid, he's on the hook for that, that's the maximum amount he will get paid.
Do we verify with the village there's no fire hydrants so that we could use pressurized water?
There is a fire
There is.
hydrant, I just don't know the contractor's individual flow requirements, and whether that's gonna disturb the village, and, whether there's hydrant flushing or anything else at that time of year, so.
We'd have to
I
meter
structured it that way,
Well, I know that. I
you
mean,
can
we have
always
to
take
meter
it
it.
out
Right.
if you wanted
What
to.
it is, let's just move forward.
Yep.
That's my suggestion.
So, yeah,
Okay.
no motion required then, right? Or we need
So I
to-
guess we're going to have a special meeting, hopefully.
Maybe-
Right.
We have to have a motion, okay,
No,
No.
we don't need a motion, right?
that's what I thought.
Okay,
That's it.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Moving on.
good.
Discuss and review the requested proposal, and I say requested proposal because I requested it,
Yeah.
from Sean Hoffman to continue independently as the town's engineer. Sean put together a letter, you all have it, his requirements, and his contractors behind it. Bill, anything?
No, I would make a motion. I just want to ask you, there's a DBA. I notice it's the company DBA, Sean Hoffman. Is that your company?
No, it's not my company. Will Canavan, Phil Canavan, who you know, I'm partnering with him.
Right,
He had an engineering company on paper
okay,
that he wasn't utilizing. I had spoken to him some time ago about going out on my own, not
right,
looking to partner, but he
Right.
had indicated that this could be an option. And after looking at several different options, it was attractive. What's important to recognize is like, I couldn't under contract go out and start up a company. I would have had to stop working, start the company, wait for the paperwork to come in.
right,
This option allowed me to start working the day after I left.
okay, good. That's good, that's good. Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion.
George?
Well,
Yeah.
you want to make?
I'll make a
No,
motion
no,
for
I've got-
You got any
discussion.
comments?
I can
I've
make,
got comments.
I can make the motion for discussion.
And I have come, I'll second it, but.
Okay.
You know, for discussion
For
purposes.
discussion.
But I have some comments. Doug, you want to go first?
Well, the one that I have is MS4. I don't see it mentioned here specifically, but I know that you've taken a big role in that, both with the building office and also with the highway department. And like the report, the annual report that Joe has to sign.
Yeah.
You know, so is that in between the lines on all of this, or does that need to be specified?
So my approach was I didn't want to make any drastic changes. I think you've been comfortable with the service I'm providing. I've been comfortable with the rates and the services. So all I did really, and I gave Rory a red line version of the changes I made, they were just changes to the name of the business and the dates. So that's the exact same contract we approved in 2018.
Yeah, and I,
H2M.
Yes, in
Okay.
October
Right.
2018. If you'd like,
It was an 18?
it was 2018, yeah.
When was, it's 4 years ago. When did MS4?
It was before then, it was 2016.
Okay,
If
fine.
it was not included, it was an oversight in 2018, and I didn't want to make any revisions now, so I think. So, but.
But for the rest of the board, it basically is, Sean has a big role in that. And whether he writes the report or others do it, you know, or he's got a big part. And Joe, you do sign it from the town as being cricket. And I always go through that thing with them because I don't want to hang out there by signing something that I don't understand or whatever. And Sean's done a nice job. of it. So I can just do it.
yeah, it's not dissimilar to what we did last meeting with Kelly and Ashley's changeover. It's essentially mirrors that.
Well, that was the only question I had. Everything else.
George, so I know we had a discussion separately with Sean about grant writing. And I noticed that grant writing is one of the things that's in here, right? So is that kind of a change then now?
No, there's no change, but that, again, my scope of services has somewhat been on call. I mean, that document tries to encapsulate everything that I do for you, but it does change. And if something new came up, or I know you have, you're working with Delaware grant writing, that doesn't mean if it says grant writing in there, that I'm going to contest to utilizing Delaware.
No, but I mean.
No, I'm saying,
Can you?
is part of your work now with us going to be grant
If
writing?
that's what the board asked me to do, if the supervisor calls me tomorrow and says, there's a grant, I want you to fill out the paperwork, I'm going to apply for it, I will do that.
And
And he
Delaware is specific to Ham Park and
And he has
Arcadia.
helped us with
Yep.
grants. He's always been helpful with.
Yeah, so there's other things that are coming down that will, you know, we can look at. Rick, you have anything?
Nope.
I can make a motion.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, George. I apologize. I thought it was the only thing you had.
I have a couple of other things.
Go ahead.
I mean, these are like legal questions. This seems to be like number 5 on page 3. Talks about however the engineer shall neither have control over or charge of, not be responsible for the construction means, methods, techniques, sequences, or procedures. But it seemed to me like there was some escape language in here that would not make you effectively responsible for work that's being done. I mean, you're the engineer, you're the overseer of the whole thing.
Sorry to tell you, that's not true.
That's not, well,
Engineer
that's what I
is
need
not-
the explanation
on-
for.
On any, and you can confirm this on any construction project, the engineer does not have the authority to stop work or anything like that. There's a safety deficiency. it's, the engineer is required to point that deficiency out immediately to the
Right.
foreman or the superintendent. But when you have a superintendent running a project, that's their project. They determine what equipment they're gonna use, what means and methods, how they're going to shore stuff up. That's not. The
I'm not
engineer's role.
specifically talking about safety types of things. I'm thinking about as the engineer for us being the responsible party on that scene for, to protect the town's interest. That's what I'm basically saying.
To a point, yes, but I do not dictate the contractor's needs and methods. Right, so I don't say that you need to have this piece of equipment, or you need to do this today, or you would need to bring in.
Oh, no, I understand that.
That's what that language is saying. I am your
I am-
representative in the field, but I do not control the work.
Rory hasn't gone through this yet, correct? You haven't gone through that contract?
I was given a courtesy copy, but I am not really in a position to speak on specific terms.
Well,
of it.
I think, it's, there, to me, looking at it, and I'm certainly not an attorney, there seems to be quite a few things in here that I looked at that, I mean, Sean, I have the utmost respect for you, but I think to a certain extent, this kind of is written to protect you more than to protect us.
George, I'm happy to take a look at it with you. I just gave you the exact same contract you
Right.
approved 4 years ago.
So this is the same thing?
Identical.
But that's why I'm
Exactly.
saying to you. it's-
I,
it's
I,
no-
I thought this was the first time we were signing something like this. It's the same thing 4 years ago?
October 25th,
Yeah.
2018, this board approved that contract.
And I was given a red line version to show me what there was
Okay.
any material changes, and the material changes are essentially name only. So that's why I referenced our approval 2 weeks ago on Ashley and Kelly's, which, scope was similar.
Look, I don't want the board doing anything that they're uncomfortable with or have questions with, but I would suggest if you have questions to, to speak to Rory, let him review it.
I thought on page 6, number 5, the insurance things there, the $1 million insurance, there could be, there could be things where I think we would probably maybe need an umbrella of more than $1 million.
I can only point back to George, the reason this contract was adopted in 2018 was in connection with Legoland, the additional scope of work we were doing there. And I thought that was a relatively large project, and I thought that was a good contract to take, it was the last one we approved. If there's something you'd like us to take a look at or discuss further, I'm happy to do so.
Okay. The next thing is on page 7, number 10. Says the engineer's liability to the town for each project. The aggregate amount liability of the engineer shall not exceed $250,000 or engineer's total fee for services rendered on the project, whichever is greater. So effectively then, if there was something liability-wise, seems like there's a relatively small amount of money that the engineer then would be paying out.
I don't have the ability to speak on whether that's a requisite amount. That kind of falls in your hands. I mean, it's standard for that type of number to be thrown out there, but I don't have a comparative for you, George. I think that would be probably an area.
No, what I'm saying then is I think that's a relatively low amount to be saying that the engineer's liability is capped at
Or
$250,000 or engineer's total fees for service rendered on a project, whichever is greater.
I can't speak to anything other than what Sean has put up a couple of times, which is in some substances has been approved prior to this, and outside of the structure of your office changing, it doesn't seem, and I'm not saying that that number is high or low, but I don't want to say a precedent, but it seems that we were okay with this 4 years ago, the number was okay. And that project, the scope of projects we had just on Legoland alone seemed to be in excess of what we have right now, maybe not volume wise, but so I only can speak to the fact that we approved it 4 years ago. I'm not sure what has changed other than.
I don't know if I go for something just because we approved it 4 years ago that we
Well,
just
generally-
automatically approve it again tonight.
Well, no, but you directed the question at me, and what I'm saying to you is, and we've had this before us, we had a project before us where the same application came before the board, and the question was posed back to the applicant was, what exactly has changed, right?
Yeah.
So this is a similar, this contract was before you 4 years ago, it was approved. The only thing that has changed is the structure of your office. So from my opinion, I can't speak to the number, but it seems like if the number was good enough 4 years ago, logic would
So-
dictate it was good enough.
So Sean, do you carry an errors and omission policy? How big is that?
I don't recall off the top of my head, I'd have to look. But any requirement
it'd
that
be
I have.
I'm
there
sure it
would
would be,
me, that,
it's $1 million, so that's where, whatever that says. If he carries errors and omissions and makes an error, we go after the full million, even though it caps whatever. So.
Okay,
I don't
and
have a
the,
problem with that.
and the last thing I had is just to check, you're being paid now $180 an hour, right?
exact same as what I
And this is, as it says here on the last page, it's 180, so it's the same amount.
That's the exact same rate. Schedule for 20.
Those were my comments and questions.
I'll move the motion.
I'll second it.
Second,
Vote.
no, we first and second.
I second, I first, you
I
second,
second.
we can move the motion now.
All in favor?
Aye. You want a roll call on
Yep,
that?
roll call, Phil.
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Rick?
Yeah, aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Joe? Aye. Congratulations, Sean.
Yeah.
Okay, you can leave, go home, go to sleep. go to work.
And condolence.
Is there anything else you'd like me to say for?
I don't think there's anything on here that,
Squeeze all the juice out of that one.
nope,
Go
good to
easy
go.
on Broderick, though.
Congratulate. You want to hear Broderick?
Go easy on.
Oh, you don't want to hear
Go
him?
easy on Broderick.
I would go to.
Better leave it over your head.
Congratulations. Okay, a couple of easy things real quick. I have a resignation letter from Frank Leva here.
Skipping Broderick?
Did I skip Broderick? Damn, I'm sorry, Broderick.
Take it easy
I
on product,
apologize.
let me skip them.
I skipped. All
All
right, item number 3, that's so long, I was thought we were on item number 7. Review and approve the road program submitted by Highway Superintendent Roderick Knoll. Roderick, floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, gentlemen.
Good
This
evening.
is our 12th time. Joe, the three that have been on the board kind of know what some of the processes are. I'll try to go through them quickly, and so if you have any question about process or procedure. The first page is 2022 agreement to spend highway funds. It's broken up into 2 sections. Number 1 is general repairs, and for that, we've been budgeted $203,750 for general repairs on 73.77 miles of town highways. Those are things for patching, potholes, shoulder repairs, signs, anything that needs to be done on our roads throughout the year. Second section is in improvements. Improvements, the town board has to approve what improvements we're gonna make. So on page 2 is the 2022 road improvement summary. So the big project that we were looking at, I'm gonna skip around this page a little bit, go down to the second section, recycling.
Right.
We're gonna recycle almost a mile of Old Menacing Trail from Fletcher Street to Wood Road. And the recycling process is where it is ground up, re-emulsified, and put right back down. And it provides a kind of almost a binder base. We will add 275 tons of 3/4 inch stone to kind of bolster that. And then that will get paved over top of that. In the paving section, Old Menacing Trail, we will do the entire section, which includes the dead end to 17 and the road from Wood Road to Scotchtown Avenue.
Can you put an additive in that recycling?
Excuse me?
The recycling milling, can you put an additive in there of some sort?
There's polymers in that. It takes the material that it's
Yeah,
grinding,
no,
and
no,
it's
I
not
know.
getting into the, it's not like a reclaim
Okay,
where you get into the base.
right,
You're just, in this case, based on the laboratory samples, we can do 3 inches of kind of peel that away, and then that goes and gets mixed in a mill, in a pug mill with no emulsion. And it comes out and they put it in a paver right behind it.
right. We rent that machine or we get a company. that
No, a
does it?
company does
Okay,
that.
good. Thanks.
So is there any part of Old Minnesink Trail that's considered a village street?
Only a small section. I know how the lines
Yeah.
work.
I thought it was like down the middle.
From Phillipsburg to Wood Road, it is down the middle and it stays that way. We have 99% of the chips. It is in our road inventory. And I did not know that until I started looking into it. It's not in the villages. So quite honestly, in my discussions with Scott, he can't, and Scott only gets CHIPS money. He cannot use CHIPS money for a road that's not in his inventory. So we kind of get the credit, and I have some sheets to show that if you'd like to see it.
No, I just was thinking that, you know, if the more you could spread it out, cost-wise, the better.
Well, what I've asked Scott to do is obviously when we do that, there's manholes, there's water valve covers and stuff, so I've asked him to kind of handle the handwork around that with a skid steer planer and just to clean that up when we do it.
So he's contributing.
This is DB, right?
This is DD.
DB. A is town-wide. The fact is, I've seen signs out there where it is both village and town.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're spending town money on a village road. I
But
don't
I'm
know.
telling you that we have, it's in our inventory.
So be it. I'm just sharing with you. I don't know if that's a problem or not. I don't know. This is the first time we've had one that's split down the middle since I've been here. And,
But you get credit for all the material.
Well, if I wanted to use the
Right.
CHIPS money for
Yeah.
this, I can claim it on the roads because we have the inventory.
Right.
If it's not in your inventory, you can't claim CHIPS money for it.
So we're not using taxpayer money. We're using money that comes from CHIPS.
Well,
Essentially,
Usually.
state money.
We do the road program and then we assign which one, and probably Old Missing will go to, and CHIPS is 3 components now. It's CHIPS, it's extreme winter recovery, and it's paved New York.
So what you did is you asked for the CHIPS money based on the Minnesota road, the whole road.
No, what we get is we get a fixed amount. So the cost to recycle and pave Old Minnesota will be more than the 186,000 we get in CHIPS, the 49,000 in paved New York and 41,000 in.
But you use that road to apply for the CHIPS money.
Usually, I like to use our biggest project to
To apply. Yeah, okay.
But this is the biggest expense you have in this whole plan.
yes.
The milling is $106,000.
117.
The recycle.
The recycling, I'm sorry,
Right.
is 106. Okay, and then to pave it is 221 and a half. I'm just saying, it's the first time it's ever come up. Never seen it like this before. I just want to make sure that since that's where the money is going, that that we're okay.
Okay.
I don't know who's going to answer that question.
Well, I think Broderick has answered.
Yeah, he
it, I
answered
think,
Yeah.
No,
Because he's saying that road
It's in our
is not
inventory.
on the village
Inventory. You use the
inventory, right? It's
Yeah,
on
it's on
the
our
town
inventory.
inventory, so that the
But that's
village
where we
could
get the
not,
CHIPS money. Yeah.
the village could not use.
They couldn't even apply
monies
for it.
For that,
well, the village,
Right.
let's face it, the village road.
but, you know.
Our roads are so-
I think maybe that's, since that's the way,
Yeah.
the better or the more the village can help us in that section, the better.
They have one small section. That is the only place they could help us. That's the only place they could spend
Village money.
CHIPS.
CHIPS
yes,
money.
because that's all they're gonna have to get. This is our inventory. This, and there's 5 of them here if you want to pass them down. This shows,
I
what
see the Old
section,
Minnesota Trail and on it. So I got it. It's not-
and then this,
Yeah.
right here is the villages. Old Minnesota Trail
Yeah, one little,
from, yeah, 0.07.
okay.
and then it goes up to Scotchtown.
Robert, you telling me that that they only use CHIPS money in the village?
Very unfortunately for them, that is their,
They don't allocate money to redo their roads?
no, sir, not to my knowledge.
They don't have it in their budget.
One of the
I mean,
roads.
That's
Yeah.
not, that's not really something new, that's.
It's been that way for
years.
For years, it's been that way.
Well, I know I lived in Oxford Road 50 years ago, and it looks worse now than it did when they put it in brand new.
Okay, I had one other question, going back to the first page, and it's quick. You glossed over that, the 203,750
Yes,
for
sir.
general repairs. It's for 73.77 miles. Is that enough money?
No, what kind of question is that?
No, no, no. Well,
Shoot for the
no,
stars,
no,
Brian. There you go.
No,
We
he's
opened
gonna
up the
say
door.
no.
No, I'm.
Take it easy
I'm
on
not
them. I mean, this is
No.
like
One second.
tossing salt.
We got
I'm
it,
not
I'm just
looking- I'm not
kidding.
looking for- I understand. But what I'm saying is it seemed to me when you were saying that maybe that wasn't enough money, and possibly some of the money that you have into paving and so on and so forth could go into the repairs.
Okay, but now let's back up and look at repairs. It is a DB, it's in the 5110 account, and it has nothing to do with snow removal. It has nothing to do with the operation of our garage. It has nothing to do with our mechanic. It has nothing to do with brush,
It's enough.
brush removal. It is totally signs, potholes, shoulders, hazards, culvert sites.
So you utilize what you can utilize up to the $209,000.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I mean, that's what's available for you, and that's what you're using.
Correct. And
I didn't know those other parts that you just said. That's why I asked.
It is very, much more complicated in town with a village.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't have any comments, but I do have a question. With the condition of our country right now and the increase in cost going up. I had a conversation with somebody who told me that Tilcon thinks by August, they're probably going to be closed because of the cost of oil. How much of an increase, or how much do we have to take off as we start, that price starts to increase?
Well, as far as paving goes, the winning contractor on the county bid in zone 4 was Ward Pavements.
Right.
Their price was 83 and change. They already have a $5 adder on that.
Mhm.
So it's gonna go up as time goes on. And
But they
unfortunately-
cap it at $5.
No, this is the first year that the county contract has an escalation clause.
Mhm.
It never did, which they would have had to bid more up front. But just like OGS state bid contracts, they have escalation clauses.
You know, Broderick, I think it's availability. If we don't start producing oil and whatnot pretty soon, copious amounts, as we get into the summer period of time, you may not be able to do what's on your plan because they won't be there to provide you with the ask.
You are correct. We might have to back off.
Now, my question then is, I guess in your mind, you got a priority of which ones you want to do first in case you can't get to them all.
Correct.
Okay.
I would start to back off on there's a section here of chip sealing. There's a list of roads. It's 11.17 miles. Our goal here is to get to some time when we are doing chip sealing of all roads every 4 years. And that would be roughly 19 miles in our current inventory, not including some of the new roads that we are attaining. But that would keep our roads, we pay good money to recycle them, we pay, reprofiling them, putting 2.25 inches on top of that, and then we just can't let it go to waste. So
No.
that's where the chip seal, keep the seals.
Well, that's why the question, maybe start with the chip sealing, and then if you can do the milling and these other things that are gonna take copious amounts of money.
Well, the problem is, once you start Old Minnesink.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta go all the way through.
You can't-
Well, then that's the one I say, well, maybe I do that last, because listen, when I can hear, read everything, it's a high probability you're gonna run out of materials. they're just not gonna be available because they come out of an oil well. I was up yesterday, a fellow was filling up his diesel truck. $880. Stop, think about that. So I don't know.
For the-
No, Old Minnesink, one of our problems, and we've been lucky to get things done early, but we cannot do Old Minnesink as long as school is in operation.
Right. So, yeah,
That would crush
Crush
the
them, right.
buses.
When do you plan on starting this?
That would be first week in July, kind of what.
Menacing, but I mean, anything else can be done prior to that? Or no?
Anything else can be done prior to that, but the chip seal roads are gonna get crack sealed. So all the major cracks are gonna be sealed before we do that. I have a feeling chip sealing is gonna be kind of towards the end of June.
Okay.
It's,
I
and
remember
I
last
have
year-
put my oil prices, I have a little latitude
Yeah.
for it to grow. And that doesn't mean things, if they go wild, we're just
Well,
gonna have to
I
react.
want to tell you something, what's happening is they're not just passing on the cost of the increased cost. All of the oil companies are gouging because they're passing on the increase and then adding 50 or 100% to that increase as additional profit. Hopefully, somebody's going to, I don't say no, hopefully somebody's going to step up and, because they have windfall profits, highest profits they've ever had in these bad times with supplies. So hopefully someone will step up to that before July or August and really put the leash on these guys. That's what's happening. It's not only the product and supply. It's- That's exactly what's happening. They're really gouging. And it's the food, it's everybody. Anyway, off the bandstand, I'm good with. Roger's plan.
What I was gonna say, because you said it last year, is
Yeah.
the sooner we pass this and get this so that it's approved, then you can contact.
Then I lock in.
You lock in. So
All right.
we're
All right,
like
let's go to.
first at the door.
I'm good.
Hopefully.
Everybody good?
But I already have been working with the vendors that spot.
Right.
Gotcha.
You need a motion?
Yes, a motion to,
To approve?
Pass.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
I think we have to roll.
Roll call.
Roll call.
All of us
Yeah.
have to sign this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Joe? Aye.
Joe, I just want to say something to you, just because this Highway Law 284, this has to be done. It has to be done before I can expend funds, and it has to be done before you're authorized to sign funds, and so that's the purpose of it. So
Okay.
we do this every year,
Mhm.
and, at some point after, you guys all sign it, and it's enacted.
Wonderful.
And you can pass it along and sign it now.
Yep.
I said no, you know.
One-
It's something else.
Oh, he's got this.
He's got the original. Okay.
Sign that.
Sign.
Sign hers.
She's got the official legitimate.
Well, that was easy. Oh, just gotta get the asphalt.
This ain't open.
Pardon?
No,
They never opened,
Tilcon hasn't.
and they did not bid on.
Tets did.
They only bid on one zone. But I think they pulled out. Tilcon had zone one, now it's four.
I know Tets is open.
Roderick, I'd like you to sign also, please, while you're here.
Thanks, Broderick. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. I think we have the
Thanks,
best roads in the county by far.
One certainly helped.
A big part of Broadway is already done. What are you doing, the uppermost part on Broadway?
The chip seal.
Yeah.
It's been done, it was recycled, it
Oh,
was paved over, and now we're gonna just
all the way from
try.
House on the Hill, all the way down.
And then we have 18 homes going.
Oh,
I saw driveways for two.
Now you
Two,
know.
three.
Yeah.
There's eight.
8 homes over there.
And is it all one hill?
Thank you.
Feeney Developers. Yep.
Well, that was easy.
Number 4, Frank Leva's letter of resignation.
Yeah, I have a letter of resignation Notice of resignation, Lee, due to my upcoming position as Town of Goshen Building Inspector starting May 23rd, 2022. Please accept this letter as my notice of resignation. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve on this board for the past 6 years. I look forward to my continuing service to the town in my new position.
You need a motion?
I need a motion, yes.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
I, with a nice note to him, thanking him.
Yes. Well, you can thank him when he goes back, because now he's the town
I
engineer.
know.
Also, along with that, I need a motion to appoint Jeremy Zway, who's the alternate to the vacancy on the planning board.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, discuss and approve the transfer of parkland funds from B General Town Only. See attached memo from Christine Cavallari. Memo states at previous board meeting, the use of funds to cover the expense of the new Craigville Park Pavilion was discussed. I am requesting the formal board approval to transfer $100,000 from the TE Parkland Fund to B General Town Fund Only to cover the expense of the new pavilion, to the new Craigville Park Pavilion, this indeed the board's intention. Any discussion?
I think that's our intention.
It is.
Yeah, we just didn't do a motion that night.
Okay.
Oh,
Can I get a motion to accept the transfer of those
I'll make the
funds?
motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Review and approve the resolution regarding the consent of the Goshen Town Board to the Village of Florida to annex a village-owned parcel of land. We talked about this in the last meeting. These are two parcels that they have their sewer treatment plant on and their wells and their what?
The state police.
State police, and they also have their tower on.
Yeah, the cell tower.
I'm a little confused on this one, because it says to the Village of Florida, and then there's something annexed to the Village of.
That's a mistake. They just used Monroe's and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
I know that, I mean, that's why I want to point it out, because we're not gonna make a motion to
No.
sign it.
No, we're gonna change,
Yeah.
Mary's gonna
There's
change
a
that.
couple of places they use Monroe.
Can I bring up something now?
Sure.
This is the second time we've been involved in annexation situation with Florida. And the last time they came in, and they came in and they explained this and they had a map and it showed the property. And here's the deal with this stuff. Okay. If they annex this, then all those properties that are adjacent to it can be then challenged and annexed into the village.
Right.
Mr. Mulrad has spent a gazillions of dollars out there.
There's
The
no,
last time I don't know, I don't see the map.
Yeah.
But the last time they came in, we denied it for this reason. And so after a lot of discussion of seeing the map, so I feel very ill at ease looking at this without understanding what's adjacent to this land.
If I-
yeah,
This is essentially a memorialization of a resolution that was
Passed
passed
already.
already and accepted.
So-
what
so-
that-
When
but
was
we-
that?
we-
How
we
long
did-
ago was that?
3 meetings ago?
Yeah.
Two,
Yeah.
three?
I don't remember this one.
Yeah.
so anyway, Doug, we did look at that, and every piece of Molrad's property has been built that they could possibly go after. And they just don't get the opportunity to come in and say, we're annexing it, we're taking it. It's still our right to say yes or
No,
no.
but the way the law works is if we deny it, they can take it to court and they can win.
Right.
Well,
there's a-
And what they
we don't
have,
know about that.
when the fact was, there was a lot of money involved taxation. In fact, they were going to annex Mr. Mulrad's some land and he was gonna build 100 houses or whatever it was. And they started paying us in advance for the lost tax revenue.
Correct.
And then he decided not to do it. And then they wanted us to annex it back. So, I mean,
And that's
I
still an
just
option.
feel, I haven't seen a map on this, and I don't remember discussing this.
But it's the
before.
Village of Florida's property. It's not,
I understand
it's
that.
not an individual's, there's nothing you can do, you're right, he's up
No,
against.
no, no, I'm
The Village
talking
of
about the
Florida.
future.
No, I understand that, but there's
Okay.
nothing you can do, you can't deny them the annexation of their own property because something may happen later on with a private individual's property.
I don't know.
And
I-
again,
I-
again, this has already been approved.
Yeah.
It is, but I'll just, to
Right.
try and give you a little peace of mind with it, Doug,
Uh-huh.
one of the
Yeah.
things that was discussed is
Yeah.
the Village of Florida's options were to come to us,
Right.
approach us for, this is a unique situation because it is right on the border. It's not a property in the middle of the town,
Right.
right? and get either our approval to annex it or litigate with us under, which you were kind of alluding to, which is the Monroe balancing test, which is, you know, your, I guess, concern level about the neighboring properties. There's a series of factors that are incorporated into whether or not a court would allow them to then annex against our wishes, right? And it's not just that they're a neighboring property. There's a substantial amount that they would have to show why that needs to be annexed into the Village of Florida. So that being said, if you're talking specifically about this property, the likelihood of success under that balancing act with this property, if we litigated against them, they would have a very good argument. Hang on. They would have a very good argument. So the analysis, at least from my end, was either they own the property, we haven't utilized it, it's not something we're looking to get back from them, and to litigate unnecessarily when the likelihood of success or necessity to block it isn't really there. The fear of them coming and then trying to annex other properties is, one, is apparently from my end, it appears to be a long shot, one. Two, there's no indication that they're gonna do any of that. Three, the properties around it, which are, a lot of them are mole properties, are in some substance developed already, and not necessarily, they wouldn't necessarily be useful to the Village of Florida as presently situated. So they would have to still satisfy all those balancing tests. And this one, they would have a good shot to be successful on. So if I'm advising on what type of litigation to avoid, this would have been, this is right up there because of,
Yeah, can I say something though? Here's my fear. Okay. Mr. Mulrad is using their sewage system, not his own. Okay. So he's already connected to the Village of Florida.
No, that's not.
I don't think
He has his own package plan.
he's got his own plan.
Not for the new ones, I don't think so.
The everything goes into his
I don't
package
Then
plan.
that makes me feel better.
I don't
Yeah,
think he
that
no,
makes
he's
me
not
feel
going into the
better.
village at
Okay.
all. He
No,
has
he
a
may
package plant there.
ask once
He's
annexed,
also
but-
looking to expand it if he builds the property that's across the street that he annexed to them.
Okay.
He's not looking for their sewer or their water. He has his own. We've had that discussion.
Well, if we know that to a fact, then
It's a
there
fact.
goes my fear.
It's a fact.
Fine, let's go with it then.
Yeah.
Okay.
and we'll just note again that, I mean, the resolution's in front of everybody. I think it's understood that everybody knows that the Monroe clerical error that somehow made it through.
Two of them.
Two of them.
Yeah,
Even I picked it all over.
It's supposed
Like,
to
it's
be,
all over. I'm like, whoa.
supposed to read Florida.
Yeah.
And if we could just strike that, and we're gonna provide the Village of Florida with a certified copy of the resolution, which will then allow them to complete their end of the project.
Okay.
Very good. We don't need to vote on this. It's already been voted, right?
No, I need a motion for the
Just accept
resolution.
the written
I think
resolution.
Motion
it may
to
have been
accept the
a year
resolution?
old, that we haven't had it.
With the
Had a
corrections
discussion.
made
Yes,
regarding the Village of Florida, it's all to the
Three
Village of
meetings
Florida.
ago, 4 meetings.
correct. All to the Village of Florida.
Got it? We got the resolution. with the
Correct, yep.
understanding that it's- Should say Village of Florida.
So I
That's
have a
correct.
motion.
I made them, I moved that we do. accept it.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, this is a resolution. You need a roll call on a resolution.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with it. Generally, we put them in,
It says,
we've been doing
it
them.
says, it
Says
says.
roll
We've been
call.
doing it
Yeah,
on
that's
every
why I said
separate
that.
resolution.
See, I mean, I.
Aye.
Phil,
Lions eye.
Petro, I.
It's okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Rick forgot his last name.
Gloria?
Florio, aye.
Got it. Good job.
Okay. So,
We got next to it.
Minutes.
next is the,
Next is minutes, Joe, number 8.
skip over 7?
That was 7.
Oh, it was.
It's a
Okay.
resolution.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
you're right.
Joe,
Gotta get these
I
glasses.
missed
filled.
Monroe, but I'm going.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Well, second,
Second.
all in
Okay,
favor?
wait. I had one question on these
Second
minutes.
for discussion.
Page 3.
These were your minutes. I wasn't here.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. It says the resolution carried by a vote of 3-3.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Only 3 people voted.
Yeah, I know, but it would be
Three
3
of
aye.
three.
It would be 3 aye and 0 nay.
Absent,
Or absent.
there's no name.
Or absent. Yeah, no nays,
Absent,
yeah.
I'll change it to absent.
3 to 3, it seems like it's a tie vote.
You're right. It is. Mary, you're slacking here.
No,
No, I'm
explain
not
this
saying,
to me. I know, yeah.
yeah, I'm not saying anything.
Carried by a
We should have
vote
some
of
minutes.
Just for
three.
clarification.
Just say period. And then,
Hey,
and
see
then,
what happens when I'm
By a
not here, all
vote
these
of
things
three.
happen.
Yeah, the
Two
meeting was done in
absent.
45 minutes. So.
yes. just
I know,
vote.
George wanted to top me, I got
I'll
that.
fix that.
Yeah, last meeting, I was on my second glass of wine.
There you go, look at that.
By
That's good.
now, yes.
Okay, Mary will take those changes. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes, April 28th?
So moved.
Doug did, Rick second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Discuss and review Goshen Park and Rec annual report. It's myself and Rick, well, Rick was at the meeting, he's at every meeting, I happened to be at the last meeting. It's a report that breaks down every single park that we have in the park and rec system, the needs of each of them. Do I have to read this into the record?
I do
No.
not.
Not the whole
believe
thing,
No.
but
I can attach it to the
People have
record.
questions or comments or whatever.
They don't have access to the report.
you know,
The audience doesn't,
I
the
do have
residents
a-
don't have access to the
I do
report.
have a,
we all gonna have questions.
I got a question.
Well, if it's gonna be attached to the, it's a public document.
Mhm.
So
Who are
it
you
can be-
questioning?
I'm not questioning anybody. I mean,
I
there's
was
a lot,
addressing- I
there's
was
a lot,
addressing whether or
there's a
not
lot
I
to
mean, if they
absorb
have
in here.
questions,
Yeah.
we'll answer.
They would address it.
Well,
If the
they wouldn't
board has
know,
questions.
they wouldn't know what the questions would be in their mind unless they can read our minds as we read it. They don't have access to it.
Is it read into the record at JRC?
Yeah.
Then
It's
it's
public in
available to
JRC,
the public
okay.
there.
Well, I mean, they're asking us for certain things on this board, so, you know, I don't think we're,
One of the things,
It's,
if I can just bring it up, we approved back when Melissa Gallo was on the board. Our number one priority was the skate park. And it just drug on because we asked for two things. We asked for designs and potential costs. And then it was superseded by they came back in and said, well, we can't do that now, but we want installation of a new pavilion. And we said, okay, $100,000, we'll do that. Now, I see in here again under the skate park, it says, despite delays, JRC is committed to constructing a skateboard facility in Goshen. Well, I think we need to be looking at that along with all the other things that they may want to do.
correct.
So that,
They're-
because there's a finite amount of money in this.
Yeah.
So-
They prioritize.
And I don't know what that, again, they have to come back with the designs and
The-
costs.
This is their wish list. There's a lot of
Okay,
different things
fine.
on there. They're not asking that we address each one,
Okay,
and they're not asking, they haven't given us a
They haven't given us a budget. I haven't seen the
budget, correct,
budget.
there's no budget on it. The single most important thing to them, and in conjunction with my meeting that I have with the mayor, they're looking for additional funding from both the town and the village so that they can take their recreational coordinator to a full-time position. It's the single most important thing to them. She's part-time right now.
we've given the town, $75,000 more the last 3 years than the village has.
Correct.
And I'm kind of sore about that because JRC didn't push the village, say, hey, we want the same thing the village is the town's giving.
So I have an answer for that.
Okay. I'm
So
glad.
one, they do all the billing for the JRC. Effectively, it's around $15,000 in cost. That's the mayor. It's his staff that does all the billing, all the payments of all expenses. We just cut a check to JRC. They don't manage the money. The village manages the money. That takes personnel and people. I'll give you the whole thing.
All right.
And then I asked Christine to put together a study of what the ratio of town to village is. And she did that for me, went through it, took her a long time to do it. And she, to the best of her knowledge and working on this, it's 67% town to 23% village. Therefore, if 67% of the town, I'm sorry about
33.
33, I apologize. I didn't do good in math in school. 30. So my belief is that we should be supporting Park and Rec to that same 67 to 33. That's my opinion. You guys can render your own opinion, but you can't ask the village to support a joint rec, if you want to call it joint rec. I think it should just be Goshen Rec, and it benefits the town overall.
Okay. Now, they house the people over there for Joint Rec.
Correct.
Okay, we look after the senior center.
Correct.
And we don't do as much, but we've got a couple people there. So we split that up early.
It's a
on. We pay
takeoff,
the
yep.
bills and all these other things. So that was what we've been doing. But I was just thinking in terms of, yeah, we went with $100,000 each year. And then what we're spending on this pavilion is a whole lot more than what that bathroom's going to be that they still want to build. And so anyway, I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, listen, I thought, Doug, if you look at things, if you look at things and you play it at A and B and you try to weigh it all out, I understand where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, the net result should be the benefit of the overall town on what we do, regardless of where we do it and how we do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my opinion. You're
Well,
entitled to yours, and I
No, we have
understand where you're
Fund
coming from.
B and it's not a Fund A item, it's a Fund B item. It's just by town only, but that's all I'm looking at. And I'd like to see what her numbers are. I mean,
She's gonna put together a budget for us. I asked her for the number at the last meeting.
Sure.
You know,
Okay.
Rick's there working with them. He understands their frustration. Trish may be one of the hardest people that I know, work-wise.
Oh, yeah.
She's dedicated. For the last 3 years, she's been the bathroom monitor. 8 o'clock at night, she's down there opening and closing 6 o'clock in the morning, opening the bathrooms, 8 o'clock at night, closing the bathrooms.
We did get Wi-Fi today, by the way, guys.
They got Wi-Fi today. Yep.
Installed it.
And by the way, our Park and Rec camp is one of the best in Orange County.
no question.
Single-handedly the best in Orange
She's got a
County.
great.
In fact,
By far.
Chester hasn't run their park and rec system in 3 years because of COVID and everything else.
Right.
And they were pushing her to take some of the residents. We couldn't because we were overloaded with our own kids. And there are some kids that got
We-
displaced, and that's unfortunate.
We sold out in what, 10
10
minutes?
minutes.
11 minutes, yeah. Midnight to 12, 11. And we want to do things next year to get the rest of those kids in. Because you have children now, the lady that was there at night,
Yeah.
Rick, she had to bring one of her sons to YMCA in Monroe because he couldn't get into the camp, and the other son did get into the camp.
Right.
So she's all over the place. But I just think that, we have an obligation to support every child in this town and give them access to open space and parkland. How we do that is gonna be up to this board, and up to the comments of our residents. But I think what Christine presented us is a really good way to determine how we fund Park and Rec. And I spoke to the mayor and he said, I will do whatever I have to do to increase it. They're doing a lot of things down there, changing things around, and they have more revenue coming in because of the building in the industrial park. So he's gonna do whatever he can. He said, whatever you come up with, we can sit down and discuss. So I would just like you guys to absorb the fact that, that's what it is, 67 to 33. And if we can look at funding joint rec in that manner, I think it's a lot fairer.
One of the other things, assist in acquiring new playground equipment. If I go back years ago, and maybe Phil can talk about this too, when Urbanski Park was built, the social club did it. The Lions Club, the Rotary Club, and others did a nice job. And I don't know, maybe rather than using our parkland fees, which are capital and they're limited, if they would do something to.
Rick, you could talk about baseball and soccer and what they do for those, those
Yeah,
fields.
like a lot of the clubs there, they do, like the soccer club and the baseball club both work on the fields
Yeah.
and maintain the whole park. They do a great job.
They do.
Baseball
I was
just
just
spent
thinking of
7.
But they
The playgrounds though are a little different because, they're items that children are gonna be playing on,
right,
right? So they have to be installed the right way.
Yeah.
And, they have to be the code, whatever kind of code there is. I'm not familiar with it, but I don't think we can get a bunch of volunteers just to come in and.
no, it's not volunteers. I think the Rotary Club bought.
The Rotary
Club,
And
yeah.
paid for
Oh,
it and
okay.
had
Yeah.
to put in.
I see.
It's just, there's a big sign right outside.
Yeah,
they
But
do.
I can tell you the soccer club put in the French drains around the fields. There's a lot of,
Well, yeah, that was the other
And
thing.
like baseball did a lot.
Let's talk about, you were supposed to find out how we can drain it, make the fields. When Phil was here when it happened, Mr. Urbanski made a decision. This is wetland.
Yep.
He didn't ask the DEC, he didn't do anything. And he went out there and did his thing.
Got on a DA.
And
Got on a
so
DA
anyway,
and
what
started doing
happened?
it. I was there. I was with him.
So then,
Slightly illegal. I don't know if I'd be
so
talking
then
about that.
No,
my
no, no.
predecessor, Honey Burns,
No, it was
Came
all
on.
that. It was.
and they were, well, we want better utilization because sometimes it's too wet. So she spent a good deal of money and time, and I think. the
We've been
village
draining
did too.
that thing.
And there's
since
nowhere to
we
drain,
built it.
there's nowhere to drain any more water than
Yeah.
what they did.
It's
So-
just,
It's what it is.
Yeah.
like the rest of Goshen. It's so
flat.
low
It's
that that's where it
flat,
flows to.
So anyway, I just say that because
But we do have
good
a-
luck at.
Rick has a great plan to drain some of it.
I
Yeah,
saw
We're
that.
gonna look at it. Yeah.
I mean, I saw that he was gonna do that, and I'm
Yeah.
interested to see.
Yeah, I wanna see what it
you're
is.
gonna do.
I mean, he spent a lot of time
Yeah.
going down there and laying it all out. And
Yeah.
I take my hat off him. He did a great
We'll
job.
figure it
I
out.
I have a generic question. I see this. I'm not sure what this is.
It's a write-up of where
Everything in your
Goshen
report.
Park and Rec is. Keep making us familiarized with each individual park, what the needs are. They're not asking for anything. It's a point of information. That's all it is. It's a point of information. They haven't asked for us to increase funding. There are certain things they'd like for
Well,
us to
they're
look at.
looking for full-time employees.
They're looking
Yeah.
for a full-time
So-
employee.
But what I mean is, I've read it over, but do we look at it and discuss this another time when we really absorb this?
Oh,
Because
absolutely. This
There's
is-
a lot of
this
stuff
is
in
just
here.
This is
There's a
just a
lot.
point of reference for tonight.
That's perfect.
It'll be on the agenda once we determine what we want to look at and what we want to do, and then we can vote on that.
Yeah, okay.
I just brought up the 6733 because I thought that was a great starting point, based on our budget officer telling us, this is where the tax money
Yeah.
comes in from. And
There was the program where every 5 years, all the books would come into the town.
Right.
And we would do all of the work, all the billing and
We
everything. And then
swap.
5 years later, they were supposed to take care of it. I don't know where that went awry. When you're saying they do it all, I'm not sure. Do we ever get those books back now?
No,
We
what it
didn't want
is,
them back.
we didn't have we don't have
Okay.
the offices here in this building to do it according
we don't have
to
enough space.
And so they have offices over there where they're housing, for example,
Okay.
coordinators, these things. So
I
anyway,
just didn't know where that was.
and we said that, we do the senior center and
And they'll do the other. Yeah. Okay, good.
So once everybody absorbs it, we'll go through it and we'll put something on the agenda at the next meeting for us to look at
We should
maybe.
I would like to break it down in segments and not take it all at once, because I think in some areas they're
Yeah.
getting ahead of their skis, like
Yeah.
they're talking to people about what they should do with the Salesian school.
Yeah.
property.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And they're talking to set, and then they want input maybe from the town board. Well, they've got the tail wagging the
Yeah.
dog.
Well, I mean, listen,
I was like, okay.
they just believe that every park or something that's named a park comes underneath their realm for
No,
them
no, I
to
understand.
manage.
I understand,
But, you know, they-
but the
they-
village board and the town board are the ones that
Yeah.
Oh,
do the
absolutely.
hiring, firing, do the budget, do
And
everything.
that's,
Yeah.
and hence they're coming to us for that.
Well, okay, and some of the.
So you know what, Phil, I'll give it
Yeah.
to you. Critique it and lay
I got
out
it, I got
exactly
it,
how
yeah.
you want to do it, all right?
Yeah, we
Great.
should all look at it. and,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, one thing is that.
Yeah, George.
The question was being popped around about what are we gonna put there other than grass, that the old Salesian building is. When I went to the opening
I got
of
a
the
great idea
library,
what we're
they
gonna
said,
put
well,
there.
we have a community center, right, Bill?
That's
And
what
they built
said,
it
yeah.
already. And no one uses it like it should be. And so it's already built as a place, so.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is we need discussion on each of these things.
Yeah.
Not bad, just so we know what
Absolutely.
we're gonna do. That's
but
Totally
we don't
agree,
spend all
absolutely.
that.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
Moving on.
What I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
yeah, George, I'm sorry.
just quickly is, since the end there, their priorities, right? The priorities that you already said was a full-time person. What I'd like to know is, what is Trish paid now and whatever her benefits are, that is the line item for 2022. And what would it be if she went full-time?
That's, what I asked them for, and they're gonna present to me what all the employees get paid there and what they need.
I thought there were two they were looking
I
for. Did I
thought,
misread that?
I only heard one.
Okay, in
full-time.
that-
Trish,
Yeah, Lisa,
Only
Lisa
three.
part-time.
At least it's part-time.
Okay, if they're, the other thing is, if they're full-time, whose role are they on, the town or the village?
Yeah.
You're saying the village today.
well, the village pays the bills. That's something that we're gonna have to understand.
They
They're
process-
on the payroll over there.
Yeah.
The village pays
Village
them.
does the payroll.
Yep,
Yes,
village has
and
a
that-
payroll.
and that's,
Let me just add one thing, when we had an individual that worked at highway, that also worked part-time in parks, he was a village, he got a village check.
Check.
So he was a village employee.
So
that's
he's a village
important because
employee.
of the benefit cost.
yeah, we.
Well, that's gonna be up to the mayor. The mayor's gonna have to understand that that's gonna be a contribution from him if he, if he
No, even-
agrees with this.
What I'm sharing with you, if he was a town or a person's a town employee, the benefits are, we pay much more than the village does.
Well, there are a lot of things we'll have to look at.
Okay, no, it's something. to-
Yep, absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
There is kind of a timeline though on this. So I
Yep.
mean, we kind of have to do our diligence. and-
Oh, I'd like to get it prepared for the next meeting
Yeah,
to
yeah,
discuss it.
yeah.
Why is it?
Well, just because she has a contract with Monroe, she has to renew her contract if she's not gonna be
Who has a contract?
Trish.
Trish,
She
she works
works, she
part-time
was-
here, part-time
Oh,
there. She
I
works in the
know.
school.
Okay, well, fine.
so she has a contract there, but if she has to renew her contract, it has to be by the end of July or something like
I
that.
understand.
Yeah, so she asked me if we could just,
But you have
not to rush
understand-
us, but
You have
just-
to understand, and I always have to bring
Yeah.
this back. We make a position, we
Mhm.
pay a position, not a person.
yeah,
So you have to understand that whatever that individual is doing, they have to do.
yeah,
But we pay the position. We're gonna create a position, and whoever's in there
Right.
is what we pay for the salary.
Right,
So,
right.
Once again, the personal things is, I know it's difficult.
yeah.
Well, it's not so much a personal thing, but I attribute her to like the MasterCard commercial. She's the priceless one. We couldn't
Yeah.
find somebody to do the job that she does better.
I understand, but we're paying the job because she could
Correct.
leave tomorrow
Right,
Correct.
right.
and go to a better
Correct,
job.
yeah,
And
she
now
could.
we have, an employee.
Yep.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
all right,
So the other things that they asked us,
Go
I
ahead,
think,
Jim.
Rick,
Yeah.
you already have a layout plan for the drainage, right? Yep. So is that gonna be, do you have any idea what the cost? of that's
No,
going to be?
no, none at all.
So you
because
have to, you have to,
that's just not something I can design, on a napkin.
yeah,
Well,
It's like, I'm gonna come up with the idea and like, I'll have to approach an engineer.
right.
And that's all gotta be designed by,
Correct.
so we're out from,
I
mean,
think
we're
the
not
first
doing
thing
it
is the
like
Plus,
that.
you can't do it until the winter time anyway.
The
It's
first
too wet
thing we
now.
need is the budget,
Yeah,
so we understand who we're
Yeah.
paying and
Yeah.
what we're paying.
Correct.
And
And
then
then
we can
the,
up it or not.
the third thing is the playground equipment. Well, what is the cost? that they're-
right,
That's the
right.
I asked her to go, we asked her,
Yeah,
somebody asked her. I think it
We're
was,
looking
I asked
into
her
the
to get me a
equipment.
copy of it.
yeah, the equipment and the books, she's gonna get you a copy
Right.
of the magazine.
Right.
So we're getting ideas now of how much it'll be.
Okay, good.
You know,
And then the last thing was to raise the parkland fees. Well, we just raised it, right? We raised it from
I-
3,000 to 3,500.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to me like should be in the business now to raise it again.
No.
We didn't,
We didn't raise them
they
just
were,
to
they were a
35.
topic for discussion. They were not raised.
Yeah.
You were here that night, so I remember there was a question.
They're still at the same current level.
They're still at 3,000. yeah.
They
We
have
never
not been
raised
raised.
Ours have not been.
They
raised.
had, there was a discussion
Okay,
about it. There was a discussion about the procedure necessary on how to do it.
right.
But we did not raise it. It would be,
Yeah,
Really?
And I think we.
Well, so
it would
I
require,
thought
it
we
would
voted
require a
on that.
local
So
law.
this is misquoted, this is misquoted in here then.
Okay.
In here, I believe it says
Says
that,
we increased it.
yeah, it says.
We
The
increased
village-
them,
the
the
village
village
increased it.
Guys, the village increased it recently,
Yeah.
and that led to the
Right.
discussion here.
Right. Yeah,
But we have
okay.
not increased. There was a discussion about,
Well, then they got this wrong. It says that.
Rick,
At the
correct me if
town-
I'm wrong, we
town
talked
board
about.
meeting- Yeah, with the town board meeting of March 11th, a motion was made by Councilman Rick Florio to increase the town's parkland fees from 3,000 to 3,500. The motion was seconded by George Lyons and carried unanimously.
Yeah.
that's
I
gotta be looked at, because it's not a resolution. It's a local law first. And then you can tuck in the local law that going forward, if the fees are raised or lowered, it can be done by resolution. But right now, the mechanism in our code does not allow parkland fees to be done amended by resolution. It would require local law. At least that's,
Which
that
requires a public hearing.
requires a public hearing. And the idea would be if you do it,
One, there's gotta be
Well,
reasons
we've
given.
already voted to do it, so let's get the paperwork.
I don't think.
What's
We
going
did,
on?
I don't, that is not my recollection. My recollection was there was an understanding that it was potentially beneficial to do it and necessary.
Pull the minutes of March 11th, you got the date. If we did it, then just start working.
That's fine.
on it.
I'm ready to go on.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a matter of.
Right.
I think we raised it
Of
last
how
year.
we
if
were
I
gonna
remember.
do it.
No, we didn't.
No, this year.
Rory was gonna look to see how we were gonna.
I know how, I can address that if you want to address it tonight, since it's on
Let's
the
go,
on the
go ahead.
subject.
This
So,
is
so
already adopted the conversation.
one of the things that came up was why, right? Why would we do that? And that's a fair question that you asked. I'm sure you recall it. And you're not doing it just to keep up with the Joneses. There's supposed to be a justification in any local law. It's in many times in the local law, it's in the beginning, explaining why you're doing what you're doing, right? And with the increase in our population in the town, certainly the necessity of, new projects and the like, the ability to raise the parkland fees appears to be a necessity. That's for you all to decide, but it has to be presented in the local law why we're doing it, right? And certainly there's ample.
We voted on it, so let's move.
Phil,
it
I'm
forward.
not,
You know what
I'm
I'm
neither
saying? I
agreeing or
understand.
disagreeing with you. I
Whatever
don't,
you have to
we
do, do
right.
it.
So essentially, yeah, so
Yeah.
essentially.
Get
whatever-
it done.
so the dates don't seem to match up, that there was a discussion. We'll pull the minutes.
Yeah, pull the
But
minutes.
If the minutes support that, which I don't believe they will,
Ah,
but if they do, I will begin
Yeah.
I'll put the proposed local law in front of you guys.
Yeah.
If they don't, it doesn't really matter. You don't need a resolution for me to put a draft of a local law in front of
Right.
everybody. So if you want me to draft it and put it in front of
Well,
you,
let's see what Mary says on the.
trying to
well, either way, what I'm saying is
Absolutely.
regardless of it, what I need to know is if it's not, then we have to have a discussion of what we're raising the fees there. So
I think we
I'm
already
telling
did
you,
that.
yeah.
We did it.
3 to 3.
3 to 3, it was
3 to
3 to
35.
2.
No.
3 to 3, I get it.
3,000 to 3,500.
I think the proposal was for it to go higher than $500 up, and I don't think we approved it. But then again, I've been wrong in the past, and I've been wrong today, actually. But I think I'm right on this one. We don't have to agree with that so quick.
Well,
You
Yeah.
woke up on the wrong side of the bed, is that it?
According to this, one of the rationales would be, not that we do everything that the village does, but the village raised it $1,000 to 3,500 on their meeting of
Correct.
April 26th.
And I reviewed their local law, and they relied upon a report prepared by Lankin Tully, and it relates. I think some of theirs has to do with the fact that they don't have as many new projects coming in that
That's
would
right.
generate parkland fees. So it's more that if they, when they had it originally, they were building at a pretty rapid rate. There's not a lot of inventory left for them to obtain parkland fees, where we're expanding quicker than we were 20 years ago, or at least comparatively to the village, but we still have to contribute. There's a lot of projects with the additional population. We have to keep up with the projects, which you're seeing in front of you, the equipment, the drainage, running out of parks, maybe creating new parks. And those are generated from parkland fees and
Right.
capital expenses, which started this whole meeting off, right? So there's enough justification for it to be there. What we have to settle on is what's the amount, assuming that we didn't pass it on March 11th, which I think is a Friday, so the date at least is wrong. But nonetheless, if it's not passed, then I'll put a proposal in front of you with the dollar amount out.
What?
Wise guy using facts, sorry. Anyway,
Well,
I'm ready to go on it.
to answer your question from me,
Yeah.
that's what I would like you to do.
That's fine.
Is
If
to
it's 3,500, the amount
Motion.
that
I
is,
think we all agreed on.
I would say
Pretty sure we
3,500.
agreed.
that's fine. So I will have that prepared for everybody.
One of the, when we're talking about this letter from the joint rec and whatnot, we've been discussing at this board for the last year or two, that everything's on this side of 17.
Exactly.
And the 500 homes that we built, well, probably most of them are on the other side.
Yeah.
So that this parkland fee is very important if we're going to start from scratch building another park.
And there's a lot of property that when they subdivide and they build developments, that there are some pieces of property that they donate to us as their 50%.
Sure.
That can be used.
In lieu
We've
of,
looked at them.
yeah.
I mean, we've walked.
We
them.
look.
There are some out there, and that's what we talked about. There's nothing on the other side of the road for recreation. And they pay.
Yeah,
those
I brought that
fees.
up to Park and Rec, and the president of the Park and Rec said they polled most of the residents, and everybody's comfortable and likes the fact that they all get together at Craigville Park.
Yeah, I believe. it.
I'll just, my last note on this, I think the proposed amount was higher the last time we discussed it. I thought it was more than $500. The village increased
I don't know.
at least 1,500. I think it was 3,000 to 5,000,
So-
3,500. So I just before,
Wow.
I'm not suggesting
Yeah,
that
we
the
should
dollar
look at
amount's
that.
wrong or
Yeah.
right. I'm just noting, and I would
So-
prefer to go back and watch
All right,
the
so-
video,
yeah,
because I don't
please.
know if we reflected in the minutes.
Let's do this. Let's
Okay.
table it
Please,
regardless
Yeah,
of what
of
it is.
course.
We'll
I'll
have,
be ready to
we'll have
go.
the answers for the next
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
You'll know what they are prior to
Yes.
the
It
meeting.
was discussed January 10th meeting, and it wasn't voted on. There was no motion to increase. It was only
think so.
discussed.
I just want to see what the discussion was, and then we'll.
Yeah,
All
well,
right, so
look
I'll
at
be
the
ready to
minutes.
go.
At least you got the minutes now.
Very good. Moving on. It's,
oh, no.
We're going.
while we have,
We're here for
a-
life.
number 10, number 10 is going to keep us here until at least midnight. So number 10 is going to keep us here until
Number
midnight.
10?
Continued discussion
I
on
hope
funding of Go Back. So we talked about this the last meeting. We talked about potentially setting up a tax district. We talked about some of the opposition of a tax district relative to the way, the fire department was structured and how we as a board have no oversight on where they spend the taxpayer money. So we're back to this discussion again. I asked George to prepare an expense budget. I think everybody has a copy.
Now, what I need to see is the budget, because these are expenses, but I don't know how much income. They're paying somebody $30,000 to bill. Who are they billing and how much are they taking in?
Most of
I
the
mean, if we're
revenues-
thinking about something like that, we really need
No, no.
a complete budget.
Well, You want to,
And
No, you said 30, billing expenses.
Yeah,
Thir-
$30,000, who
well,
are they billing?
That's at 35,000.
All right, 35.
We
Yeah.
have two people. We have a payroll outfit that we use, and then also billing. We have a billing outfit that uses. that we use.
which is normal,
Yeah.
which is normal.
George, can you
In the
get
medical
walking
industry.
your mic? I can't hear you down here.
Good night, Broderick.
See you, Broderick.
Good night.
Again, good,
That's
thanks a lot. Great job.
Yeah, so that's what the cost is for the billing expenses. That, we have roughly for 2022 now, we have 800 calls since January 1. And that works out to be about 6 calls a day. And the way the revenues and the expenses go is we now bill for our services, and that can go all the way from not getting anything because the person has no insurance and no money to people who are in an MBA, no fault insurance. Those insurance companies pay basically the full amount, so there's a big range. But anyway, to answer that question, it comes out now to about $350,000 that we get in
Right.
billing expenses.
Oh.
The fundraiser was about 50. The town gave us 50. The village and the town of Hamptonburg gave us about 25,000.
Each
No.
combined?
I requested an increase, and Scott said he thought he was going to do it, so the village would be 25, and the town of Hamptonburg for years and years and years has given us $2,500. So that roughly comes into, with all the revenues, roughly $470,000. So we have a shortfall of somewhere between 250 and 300,000. And over the next 5 years, because we purchased the old Dykeman building, we expect to, and it would kind of be front loaded more in the first couple of years as compared to the last 5 years. We're going to put in about $500,000 into that building. And rough estimate, we have one ambulance that will have to be replaced in approximately 3 years. And we're putting money aside for that each year. And that would be a cost of about $300,000. So anyway, what Joe had asked me to do tonight was to get a budget, which I did, and then also to give you revenues and kind of get a feel for what the shortfall would be as it stands now. And I think,
So you're looking at a $250,000 shortfall.
yeah, 250, 300,000. And the figures that I gave you here as far as the budget, this was comprised in January. So things have changed a little bit because in January, we were talking about the purchase of the building, but we didn't actually purchase it. So now we actually purchased it. We're getting into bids for things that we have to do really quickly is the roof, the brickwork on the outside, windows, and put in a shower. Those are the things that we're going to do right away, and then chip away at the inside of the building and rehab, everything.
You indicated the last time that the village, because they weren't paying as much as we were doing all the repairs and so on and so forth on the building. I see this, your building expense is $150,000 of repair, building expense and repair. So that, this doesn't match up with what you indicated.
No,
the last time.
well, then you misunderstood what I said.
Yeah.
No, the agreement with the village, we've been there about 12 to 15 years. The village has helped us occasionally, like the burner went out, the oil burner went out, and we did a 50-50. But the maintenance of the building is ours. They didn't charge us rent. We were rent free. And that was the thing that the village was giving us. But the contract that Dave Donovan developed was basically, in fact, we did ask them. We went, when we were replacing some of the windows, we asked them if they would go 50-50 again. We got a letter from Dave, and rightly so, saying, hey, listen, the agreement is we don't charge you rent, but any maintenance that you're going to do, you're on your own. So that's been the way, that's been, I would say, probably 90-95% of the maintenance has been done.
It's $150,000.
Oh, but now
is like,
now that we actually purchased it, the roof it leaks all over the place.
I know,
Right?
it's out, how much did you purchase the building for?
Oh, the village gave us no pun intended, a fire sale, $30,000.
Oh, you got it.
The one, I mean, that helps them.
Well,
Get rid of the
it
building.
may help them, but
You gotta be kidding.
no,
But
Is
can
that
we,
put-
can
is
we
that put
go,
back on the tax roll?
no, it's not.
can we go though, I mean, I think we need to fly the plane a little bit
A little
higher
higher.
rather than this.
Yeah.
To me is, does this board have the authority legally to create another taxing authority?
Yeah.
Number one, and if not, who is it? Is it the state of New York, Orange County?
No, we
No,
have the
the answer
authority-
is we
the-
have.
We have the authority
We have the authority to create it.
to create it, but it still has to go to a public hearing and
Well,
a
it's-
municipal referendum.
Right.
The people decide whether.
Yeah, I
it happens.
think, well, okay.
I made my.
Correct me if
point.
I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's gotta go to referendum, but
No, it doesn't have
made it-
to. It's a permissive referendum.
Yeah.
If they get
Right.
5% or 100 signatures, then it goes to the referendum. But it's not an automatic referendum.
Phil, what were you gonna say?
Well, I mean, I made myself really clear that I did not want to establish another taxing authority for the town of Goshen, just like the fire department, because then there is no control and whatever you, and I, without deference to you, George, I mean, I know, and all the volunteers, they work very hard. But I know Mobile Life is the #1 responder. And I know you say you respond with them, and 6 calls. I'm not sure if you have to go to those calls. You have 10 employees now. This was a volunteer fire ambulance crew. I'm just make the slipperyest slope ever.
So
Is creating a volunteer private corporation, allowing them to tax our residents. That one just really,
but when you say
Goes against
private,
my-
what do you mean? It's
Yeah,
it's
private
not for
is-
profit though.
yeah, it's not, so what? It's private. It's not for profit.
Okay,
They
so,
can dissolve that tomorrow.
right, so
And for
I'm gonna
them
give
to
you,
be-
I'm gonna give you
It's
something.
not
that
a
happened-
municipal. It's not
No, I'm gonna give you
municipal.
something that happened last night, so just to give you some food for thought. So in my mind, it's one of the most important things as everybody gets older, they want to make sure when they dial 911, that somebody's there to try to help them extend their miserable life from 70 to 71.
And it's
You get
mobile
to a
life
hospital.
responsibility to
Okay,
answer that call to 911
That's-
immediately.
that's what I'm getting to.
That's it.
So you can all verify this yourself. I happen to know him personally. But Jim Burpo, the Commissioner of General Services, got a call last night. His father-in-law was in a T-bone accident on Route 6. It took Mobile Life 39 minutes to get to the site because there's no voluntary ambulance corps in the town of Wayne. So
One has
You're
nothing
not-
to do with the other.
what's that?
One has absolutely nothing to do with the other. That's Orange County's problem because they contract with Mobile Life. If Mobile Life is not doing what they're supposed to do, that's between Orange County and Mobile Life. They're not doing the job they're supposed to. I don't know what
Understood.
the action.
But you-
There's no contract between the county and Mobile Life.
There isn't?
No such thing.
Why does Mobile Life respond first? I don't understand that.
Well, first you gotta understand, Mobile Life it used to be, the presence was all over the place. In fact, going back to Doug, this is years and years ago, it's probably 16 years ago, you had one of your friends come with one of the people from Mobile Life, and they said, hey, we'll take over the area. They never came to us, but they came to you, and they said, if you give us $100,000, we'll just come in, we'll park an ambulance right here.
Right.
Which was kind of a nice back door of doing it, but anyway, you weren't about to give them $100,000, so. Now, case closed on that, but Mobile Life is in distress. We are answering probably, I would say every day, there's probably 2 calls a day that Mobile Life calls 911 and says, we have no rig available. Assign it to
Somebody
the
else.
local ambulance corps, wherever that is. And of course, in Goshen, it's here. And what a lot of the calls are, they're to the nursing homes. And you know why they don't take them up? Is because most of the people in the nursing homes are Medicaid. And Medicaid is the worst revenue producer for us. They don't even pay for, we do it because it's in it, but the Medicaid reimbursement rate is absolutely terrible. So Mobile Life, there's.
So why are they, I don't understand
I
why
think-
they're supposed to be first responders. Are you saying that they
They're-
just can't,
They're
and
not,
their there's no contract? What
Not that I know
puts
of.
them in the first position? I don't understand that.
I don't.
I
Because-
don't
because
understand.
they
have-
Are they state?
Phil, I don't know them as being the first responder. I don't know them.
When you
the
call
first-
911, they send, first of all, I know that they're more qualified.
Oh, no, you're talking about ALS now. That's a whole different ballgame, ALS versus
Well, I
BLS.
call it whatever.
So I can get it. I can
They're
get it.
That's what I call it.
they're advanced life
ALS.
support because they have technically trained
That's right.
EMTs on there.
And we
EMTs.
We have
that's
some technically trained EMTs, correct?
But they have paramedics.
Right.
Which that's a whole step up. They're able
Right.
to do telemetry, they're able to start medication.
Right.
And so on and so
Right.
forth. But what happens now with Mobile Life is they used to send a rig down. Now they don't do that anymore. They send a fly car. They send a fly car. A fly car is just one person, the paramedic, and then he hops on our rig. And
You mentioned that.
and
Now,
we're
the
transporting.
ALS thing, what do you,
Okay,
Advanced
so,
life support.
so Goshen Ambulance is a BLS system, basic life support.
okay,
So when you call 911 and you're saying you're having a heart attack or a stroke,
right.
it keys it in as ALS. So
Who responds to that?
we respond to it as well as an ALS unit.
Well,
Which-
what
which-
is the
which-
ALS?
Which would be,
No,
I'll tell you.
I want to know.
Who's ever available. A lot of times Mobile Life now is not available. So town of Wallkill has paramedics, they come in. We had 1 or 2 paramedics come from Kirsgill into Goshen for ALS calls. And of course, a lot of times, there's such a delay that when you get in there, we try and meet them like halfway. Sometimes by the time we pick the person up, we're on our way out on 17.
But
actually
you can't treat that
interface.
person like ALS.
No, we can't start the medication, so we can't do the
Right.
telemetry or something like that.
Do they
However,
respond to every call ALS?
no, it's only if it's keyed
I
in
mean, every
as,
911 call.
no. A 911 call comes in and it's keyed in as either a BLS or an ALS, stroke, heart attack, ALS.
Right.
A kid out on the soccer field twists his ankle,
Right,
that's BLS.
right,
So only we would respond,
right.
mobile life would not respond.
Okay, and that's understandable.
Right.
That's okay.
So again, we have to come up with some type of decision what we're doing. I understand where you're coming from, Phil. I tend to agree with you that, relative to the fire companies and how much money we give them. But at the end of the day, it's not our decision. It's only our decision to say whether, we can't approve a tax district. Correct me if I'm wrong, Roy.
So what are
You
we
could
talking
create-
about?
You can create the tax district for the ambulance for the same way you did the fire department.
Correct. But what I'm saying is this board doesn't sit here and say it's done and it's done. It has to go out to the vote. The public has to vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it by way of a permissive referendum, or it could be put out for referendum.
But we would have to vote on it first. And if we wouldn't, what are we talking about?
Well, if
Why
you're
not?
putting it out for referendum, then the board votes on a permissive referendum, which someone brings a petition in and says we want it done that way. The public is saying we want it on the vote. But I don't believe it can be created by you. It can be I'm reacting to the question.
Yep.
Yeah.
because it's-
Well, we want to know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it already, so I mean, I would go back, the first thing I would do is go back and look how we did with the fire district.
Oh,
No,
absolutely.
I'm talking about the mechanism, right?
Absolutely,
So
that's
so that
all,
would,
yeah.
that would answer the question, but I don't have that information right in front of me.
So in our jurisdiction, we have the town of Goshen, which could pass a tax district subject to permissive referendum. Then we must go to the village, and the village has to
Okay.
pass the same thing and the same types of things, permissive referendum, or they could pass it. And then we have 1/3 of the town of Hamptonburg, and we would have to do, the same thing with that.
Okay.
So there's actually three jurisdictions that we would have to go to and get.
Does that-
approvals.
Does that overlap, is that the same as the fire district from a coverage area? Is it the same?
No, it's
map?
not the
Okay.
same. Otter engine
Okay,
is out there, so that's a whole different fire district.
understood.
But as far as the village and the town,
Well, we also have the
trying to
library.
think
But we
now,
also have town residents that are in the Chester Fire District, so we pay
Yeah.
Chester. I'm in
right,
the Chester Fire District.
Okay,
and Florida too.
okay.
Down towards Florida. Well, Florida went out of the business completely,
Yeah,
you said
and
that.
therefore we took over.
and Chester did too.
Chester did too.
Yes.
So, I mean, at this particular point, the taxing authority, if they run short, they just tax. Although my thought would be, we can control the amount of money that we give to the ambulance corps if they need more. Every municipality can control it and make up any deficit if we feel it's a legitimate deficit.
I don't-
Once you
I think I'm
become a
pro rata.
taxing authority, you don't have to ask anybody, you want a new rate, you do this.
So let's just, for
So-
argument's sake, say,
Yeah.
we stated that we were going to, and I think this is one of your concerns, George, if I'm wrong, then correct me.
Okay.
Let's just, for argument's sake, for the purposes of this discussion, say we were gonna give the ambulance corps every single year $100,000. How can we guarantee, because we're a board for 2 to 4 years, how can we guarantee moving forward that any other board coming in there can't overturn that $100,000 and make it zero or $50,000?
How can we guarantee that if they need to buy something or want to buy something or want to put 10 extra people
Well,
on,
through this
they just
control.
do the taxing authority?
Oh, no, I got you. I'm
I mean,
not, I'm
that's,
not.
you're
arguing.
there, then you've got that private organization taxing all our residents.
All right,
in town.
Listen, I
So
understand.
the other way, I mean, if there are other municipalities, and I think we should support the ambulance group. Don't make me misunderstand what I'm saying. But first of all, I don't want duplication of effort. And two, we would support them, but we'd have at least to look just like any other entity like the
JRC.
JRC, they provide us with a budget. Yes, it's good. Broderick provides us with a budget. Yeah, we do this. Once it's a taxing authority, you're out. I pay more fire taxes than my county taxes. That's crazy. We have 3 fire companies, 3. And I'm not sure how many houses burned down, but I mean, it's all, it can go out of control. So I'm just bringing
No,
another
you
side.
make very valid points. And I think from the perspective of GOVAC is they need to feel comfortable that this town can support their efforts as an organization to make sure that when one of our residents calls 911, that they're going to be there. So how do we do that? That's my question.
That's up to them. That's a
Well,
volunteer ambulance corps. I can't run their, I'm not running their company.
I'm talking about funding, the funding of it.
Well, we're not responsible for the funding. It's a volunteer corps. We do it because we recognize the service. But if the service goes down, or they cut staff, or they're not able to go, if they're a taxing authority, it makes no difference. So if we see, we have control with the town board. We have control of the spending. We don't have control of their income or expenses.
Okay, but you're not giving me a solution. You're
So
just
I
giving me
did.
you're
I
just
said you
giving-
get whatever they need. If there's a shortfall, we can review it
No,
and
no,
see us, another municipality, Chester,
Yeah, no.
Florida, Hampton, we can all, village, and say, you know what? It's a shortfall. We see their budget. This is really a legitimate expense. We should do our proportionate share and raise it. We used to give them $15,000 when I was on the board. Now we're up to 50. So that's how you control it.
Actually, we started out, I think when I came on this board, it was 30,000 and it was cut. It was cut to 15,000. And I think that's exactly what would happen. I don't think there's a way that you could just lock in whatever that number is. We used $100,000 and that we could be guaranteed $100,000 every year. As the budget goes through, just like everything else.
Like every other budget.
You add and so on and so forth. But, you know, the thing that I think GOVAC could do is do something like the fire district, where they have elected people to a board. And that board goes through the budget and says, this is what the budget is, and then passes it on to the town.
And then the town goes out and collects the tax.
Yes.
And that's where, so you're a taxing authority. You give us the budget, we don't question it. The fire company gives us the budget and says, go collect that from all your residents. We say, yes, sir, and we go and collect it. And then when we get, and the residents come in and say, how come my taxes are so high? We have no control over it.
It's just that
That's crazy.
the thing that's happening, though, is happening throughout the county, is that more and more tax districts are being created. The town of Montgomery is doing it now. The town of Newburgh has already done it. Blooming Grove, they're right next door to us right here. They're really kind of a great model, but what they do is they have a hybrid tax district. What happens is they bring all the ALS part, just the ALS part, because they have paramedics as well as EMTs. And so they put in a budget for their ALS. So anything related to the fly cars, the medications, and the paramedics and their health insurance, their benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's picked up by the town. So that's how, and then the rest of it is done by billing and by fundraising. And the other thing that the town, I just heard this last week, the other thing that the town of, town of Blooming Grove has given them a parcel of land. So they're building a new building there, but the land was donated by the town. And what's happening all over the county, it's just, I guess there's like, I don't know if there's no rhyme or reason. Each organization seems to be coming up with their solution. Like Cornwall. Cornwall gives their Cornwall ambulance $10,000 a month. And they have a contract with New Windsor to do their ALS at $12,000 a month. So whichever ambulance corps you go to, there's a different thing.
Yeah.
Monroe has paid EMTs from 6A to 6P, the town picks that up. Town of Monroe picks that part of it up. And then the rest is filled in with volunteers. So it's kind of all over the place. The only thing is all I'm saying is that we have a shortfall. And if we're gonna continue on doing and improving, we need a boost. We need more money to survive.
Well, George, in terms of your workload, how much is the town and how much is the village? We give 50,000 to you today.
Right.
That last time I bumped it up 20,000.
Right. That's it.
But
Through my strong efforts, pushing you.
Yeah,
Well, you got-
you're doing it now.
Hey, don't-
You're
don't
doing it
hose
right
me over,
now.
We'll take it.
Are you kidding?
Hey, but
You didn't come easy, Doug.
I understand, but the fact is that just like Joe was talking about with the children and the playgrounds, we need to pay for our fair share of these things.
Mhm.
But if we picked it all up, we'll give you 100,000, that's what your shortfall is, then, but I'm kind of like in Phil's corner versus another taxing authority. When I was out walking this past time for election, I went to this house, the lady was sitting on the front porch. And I said, well, we're doing very well in controlling. Excuse me, sir. My husband and we just sold a house. We're leaving Goshen, New York. Our social security is not enough to just live on. And so, but there are a lot of people like this.
My dentist is leaving.
And,
Oh, when you
so-
move to
so
South
anyway, I think
Carolina.
another
I'm like,
taxing
what?
authority
There's,
is,
I don't believe there's a person in this town
Yeah.
yeah.
that would question what it costs them to live here just for their county and town taxes. And we don't control what happens on May 17th. That's next week. That's where the majority of people's taxes go. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it.
But anyway, I think, but another taxing authority, I think it's gonna be difficult to get through, but anyway, maybe the better part of valor is that we, the town and the village and whatever, we pick up and pay for
I
it.
mean, there are so many municipalities now, you do cover Chester, I know that, because they don't have one
Right.
at this point. So Florida you cover, I mean, all of these municipalities that are
We're-
getting services need to chip in.
No, no,
We're- we're
no, no,
deciding,
we don't,
right?
we don't, we mutual aid to Chester, but
Whatever that means.
Yeah, Chester, all mutual aid, meaning if there isn't a rig available,
Right.
busy, then mutual aid, another
Right.
ambulance service will come in. Could be Goshen, could be Walk Hill, could be William Grove,
Right.
could be,
Right.
Warwick.
Well, that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
fine.
happening all,
so-
all over.
right.
all
So,
over
so
the
I
county.
still, I have a dilemma here. I mean, is it our responsibility to say yay or nay, or is it the public's responsibility to vote on it?
It could be either, depends on what you're choosing. My suggestion maybe would be to get, George, you rattled off, Blooming Grove, Montgomery, Newburgh, Cornwall, maybe you can get an idea of what, you said there, everybody's kind of doing something, maybe we can get an idea of what's being done elsewhere and kind of look at those programs and see what's the best fit for what we're doing. I
Yeah,
mean,
see, the tax district actually then gives you the ability to say, you're gonna get X amount of dollars each year. If you say, okay, we'll go back $100,000, well, that's good for the next year. But then when circumstances change, which they do, and it happens here, it could be cut. So you still have all your expenses. So you don't have the so-called guarantee, so to speak, that you would have with a tax district.
Right.
And I think that's why so many organizations are.
But
going to that.
But relative to Phil's concern, which I think is a valid concern, the wish list for go back can be anything because you just give us the budget and say, my budget this year is $750,000, go out and collect my money.
You need to.
So that is a valid concern. Again, I come back to the point, is it our decision or is it the decision of the residents of the town of Goshen?
It could be technically either. There's a mechanism in which this board can facilitate the
Yeah,
creation.
but I don't
Can they
mean
Yeah.
theoretically, I mean,
Well, not literally,
So that-
literally, the board has a mechanism that can set the course of action that will lead to a tax district being created. I believe it can also be done by if go back, rally the troops and got enough people to put together a petition for potential referendum, and that might also do it. But I'm going off a reaction to,
Does the board have to be involved? Can they do it unilaterally? Because if that's the
I'd be
case,
more comfortable giving
go
that
ahead.
answer after being
Yeah.
able to research. it.
if that's the case,
As far
then
as
there's
I
no
know, the
decision.
As far as I know, the town has to be.
I think we.
One would-
If
one
there's
would
gonna be a
think-
tax district,
Of course,
the town has to,
One
the
would,
town has
one
to.
would think so, but
of course.
many things can be done by
Well,
referendum if the
Well,
will of the people.
The thing that's,
Yeah.
the point I want to make though is a little bit different for go back, I think. And maybe this will drive this home, maybe it won't. Is we said our budget was 722,000, but 470,000 of that, well, that's not true because it's about, let's say, for argument's sake, 400,000 of that amount we're raising ourselves. So you don't get that with the other tax districts that you have. They don't generate that amount, and we can generate quite a bit of money because of the billing. So it's a smaller percentage that you would have to then go to the public and get the tax dollars.
That's
And I think there's
That's
some
for-
credibility to that.
right, but
No.
that's provided that you have no choice but to run your
Yeah.
go back unless you do that. There's nothing to say that they're gonna go raise $400,000 once they become a tax district.
Right.
So, you know, point taken, but my argument would be not really a good point. I still think, come back to that it's their,
No. And we're elected officials to make those decisions.
And the-
right,
and
and
the
the
town
decision
will
is either,
you wanna
no,
do it?
we're not gonna put it up, or yes, we're gonna
Right.
put it up.
But we
That
have
I
the,
agree.
but we have the alternative where we can backfill as much money as they need or as much money we think that's appropriate. We can backfill. So that, there is an answer without establishing a tax district. Now, that's the answer, that the municipalities just make up any shortage that we feel is a legitimate shortage. I mean, if they come in and they say, we want to buy 2 new rigs this year, then we probably won't say, we're not going to give you 400,000 this year. We probably will say, you know what, take 1 rig out, or whatever. But we still have that decision. I'm a taxing authority, you don't.
Agreed.
So that's, I mean, I've stated my position. I don't know what anybody.
Well, I think we can see that with the fire department.
Absolutely.
I mean, you
That's
know,
where I'm coming. from. That's
my
where
con-
I'm coming.
My concern is we represent the people. We have our own opinions, but we represent the people. So I don't think the people have a voice in this.
Well, they do. It would require a public hearing of some sort.
After we say yes.
Well, after you say yes,
Right,
but
you're right.
you have to incorporate those,
Right.
those.
So the
thoughts.
point being is we have to say yes if we want to, and no if we don't.
On the front end, yeah, but you have the ability, the whole point of the public comment, public hearing is that you may hear information or thoughts or the will of the people in a way that changes your opinion.
But how do we get to that point? We don't get to that point unless we vote tonight to say, yes, we are
I wouldn't vote tonight because I'm not comfortable
No,
giving you that
no,
advice, right?
correct. But what I'm saying to you is we can't get to a point to put it up to a public hearing unless we say, yes, we're interested in creating a
Right, I think
tax
that
district.
goes for any
That's
decision
only
the
a
town
question.
board makes that is of a certain level, you know, that requires either a local law or some creation, it always goes to a public.
You know,
comment.
just an example, was it Minnesink, I think, wanted to build an upper level. I think it was like a $2 million thing. And they held a vote on it. We're taxing authority, they held a vote. 800 people that voted in that thing. And people stood in line for 4, 5, and 6 hours out of the day. And they voted it down, like 4, 5, or 6 to 1.
Yeah.
They built it anyway. Because they were taxing, they had to fund that they could, they built it anyway.
How do they do that?
Why'd they do
Capital
that?
reserve, capital reserve.
They have capital reserves, they just,
That's it, that happened,
yeah,
that's,
so.
you're voting on a capital reserve on the 17th.
Right.
For the schools. And the
So
capital
that's
reserve.
right.
Exactly.
There's a referendum for that
Right.
part of it. And
So-
that's what happens in fire districts, and I guess in a lot of other
Library.
places around.
You know what I
Is-
was,
People said, no,
Is
they
they put a
did.
capital reserve and they put X
Yep.
amount away
Exactly.
each year, and then they
Yeah.
don't have to go to any referendum.
No, they don't have to go anywhere.
That thing that Doug was talking about is they had to go because I guess they didn't have the capital reserve money.
I can't speak to it, I mean, I recall it.
And
happening,
therefore,
but-
yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, why don't we, to me, I'm not for the taxing authority. Okay? I'm for the town, the village, and whoever else you work for to put it in our budgets
Yeah,
for your shortfall.
yeah.
Where we do have some say so, you know, Because I'm sharing with you right now, the fire departments in Goshen, New York, if the trucks got bigger, we'd have to have, I don't know what we would do. It's not cost effective. It just isn't. And George, you're not gonna be there forever.
No,
That's the problem.
no,
Yeah, but you know,
that's right.
what does it say? The cemeteries are filled with indispensable people.
That's right. Yes.
Charles de Gaulle.
Rick, any comments, anything you'd like to see happen?
I'd like to see, I mean, if the town's gonna put more money in, I think that's a great idea. It all depends on how much and how long, because like you said, at any time, they could just say no more.
I don't think you can commit beyond a budgetary
No.
Right.
period. So
Year to year.
It would be an annual thing.
They
obviously.
provide us with a
You
budget,
can't.
just like everybody else. We look at the budget and say, you know what,
Mhm.
you really don't need to handle
Right,
it this year.
And what happens
Well, yes, you
if,
do.
like, when Chester disbanded, what happened to their tax district? It just ends, right? There's no.
They didn't have a tax.
They didn't?
No, they wouldn't have to disband if they did.
Now,
would have had the
Oh,
ability.
right. They were
It's just a
volunteer.
voluntary ambulance. work.
Volunteer, right.
Well, I'm
Just like
saying,
us.
I'm saying if they had a tax district,
Right.
they probably wouldn't have to disband.
Right,
They would have
because
the
then they
funds
get the
to-
money.
They, so
Or is that
we,
a-
so,
personnel?
correct me if I'm wrong, we would have to disband if they didn't raise $400,000. They
No,
could,
it's not us, it's them,
I said,
them.
Meaning
when I
we-
say
we-
we,
Go back
I
on
meant
board.
Go back would have to disband if $400,000 in funding wasn't raised by the
Well,
volunteers.
Or cut
If-
expenses.
Yeah, we would have to cut expenses. Like, for instance,
It would
there are
answer
places
every call.
around that after midnight, they don't respond. Midnight to 6 a.m., so you cut back on
So-
expenses.
We make sure we put an edict out there to all our residents, don't have a heart attack at 2 in the morning because you're dead.
No, because ALS responds.
I'm not saying we're gonna do
ALS
that.
doesn't respond. Mobile Life doesn't respond. I can
Well,
tell you
that's
that right
their,
now.
well, that's their job. If they're not doing it, then somebody, I don't know who they I don't know who paid
They-
it.
I don't
There,
think-
there is no contract. They're assigned to a
Whatever.
hospital, so they have an agreement with Garnett. They have an agreement with Garnett that Garnett says Mobile Life is our ambulance for the hospital. They have a position here where they are and
But there's a
911,
911.
but there's no,
There's a
they're
911.
not contractually obligated.
Somebody is.
No, they're not. I don't know of any
Why would
contract
anybody
obligation.
respond?
As a matter of fact, at
I
the
think
Association of
we should-
Towns meeting that over
Yeah.
in Cornwall, the gentleman who's in charge of the emergency services, his name Sean, is it? He's retired state police.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, that gentleman there, he basically, he got up there, and of course, there were a lot of people that saying, you gotta do more, you gotta do more. And he said, listen, I'd like to do more, but at this particular point, we are supplying, and that is true, they're supplying the complete 911. That's all county run, totally funded by the county. They did communication pages and stuff to every ambulance corps, and I believe fire as well. That was a huge number. They got some kind of a federal grant. But there is no indication at all that they are going to hire full-time paramedics and station them throughout the county so that they can respond to ALS calls. There's nothing like that happening. Right here, because we're kind of in the center of the county, we can mostly get, most of the time, ALS. I'd say maybe 80% of the time. But you go down to Warwick or you go down to Port Jervis, there's no ALS down there. They just do the BLS type of stuff, just like we did. I mean, I started with the ambulance corps in '74, and there was no ALS at that time. There was no mobile life.
Corps started one in
was-
1960.
No, our ambulance corps, our first call was June of 1974.
74,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
So before
And-
that, there was no ambulance corps.
Yeah, it was Donovan's.
Donovan's.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it was private.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
so,
yeah,
so essentially what happened there was, there was a guy who laid on the ground up by Triangle Park for over an hour. And the reason why he was laying on the ground over there was none of us get the call, hey, you gotta pick up a guy, he's hurt, he's in the road. And then who's ever the driver there would drive up to to the hospital, right, and pick up a nurse. And then the nurse and that person would go down to this particular place. So the guy laid,
He was dead.
the guy laid there for at least an hour, maybe longer. And then actually it was a whole bunch of firemen They said, hey, listen, this has got to change. We got to do something here. So that was the advent supposedly of the start of the Goshen Ambulance Board in '73, I guess that was.
But
So,
George,
thank you, George.
I really believe if we put in our budget, and the village puts it in their budget, you're assured of that money, okay? Now,
We have to get their budget first. I mean, we'll know
Yeah,
what
I-
they need, what they ask.
well, we
I
need our
think,
budget.
see, we're getting into the same thing here now. If I'm gonna rely on the village of Goshen giving me the equal amount that you're gonna give me.
Right.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's an equal amount. I think it's a prorated amount.
So, I mean, just look what's happening now. Although the one thing that I already said, and rightly so, is they gave us the building for nothing. I mean, we didn't have any rents. That was a big factor. But now that's gone. So next year, is the village of Goshen going to give us, let's say, well, you gave us 50,000? Why? I'm not too optimistic on that. So maybe if you're gonna go that route, maybe what you do is just go to A farm. Go to the A farm,
All right.
townwide. That's village, town,
I
that's
don't know if
everybody.
we- Can we do, I don't know if we can.
No, we could do that, but our budget, we'd be, that would get in the way of doing things that we do with the A fund today.
Right.
It should be the B fund and the village is what it should be.
Well, nothing has to be done tomorrow.
No.
think we
No, I
should
think,
really
I
sit
certainly think it
and
needs
think about
further,
this.
further discussion, that's
Sure.
for sure.
Yeah,
I
Because
thought,
I think that, I
I
think
don't
we
have a
have,
problem.
what's that?
I don't have a problem with.
I think it was a good discussion, but,
Yeah.
we didn't. come to
I
an answer.
would like to better understand from you, Rory,
Sure.
what the process is. Can you have a public hearing prior to it? You got to vote, a couple of different things. We can discuss what I'd like to understand. But I think for now, again, we should table it
Oh, yeah.
and,
We can table it for anything.
all right, so. Moving on. All right, so I'd like to open up a discussion on Airbnbs and how they are starting to pop up all over the place due to due to Legoland's coming in here and them having a lack of space for all the people that want to stay here. If you go through Airbnb, which I did, there's got to be probably over 30 or 40 different Airbnb solicitations. After discussing it with the building inspector and the town attorney, we don't have anything in place that allows an Airbnb. Correct, Rory?
That's correct.
All right, so we have nothing that allows an Airbnb.
Well,
And-
But we have.
to be clear, there's nothing that necessarily prevents on either.
Correct,
You know,
exactly.
So
I was-
so it doesn't
I was
allow
moving
it
on
to
to that,
prevent it, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so there's nothing that prevents an Airbnb, but there are requirements to be a B&B. And we have law and code, and part of that law and code is, they have to go before the planning board, they have to apply for it through the planning board. A key portion of that is they have to be the primary resident of that facility in order to be a B&B. And I know we have these popping up all over the place, and I just think that it's going to become an issue, and we're going to have to address how we handle specifically Airbnbs in the town. I know the village has done it already. They've enacted some law and code, and I think that we need to look at it and address it and do something about it.
I'd like to see it, if you can get it.
I have it,
You
the
know,
Village of Goshen's law.
Yeah.
I have
we should
theirs, I have a
probably get
couple other
copy.
municipalities. So I think that the general idea of this being on the agenda, without going too far into it, was where are we at on the idea of Airbnbs being present in this community? And then draft around that. And everybody's got their different variations of how they want to allow Airbnbs, if at all. So I mean, you have everything from not allowed and keeping our standard as B&B, you gotta come get a permit, you gotta have owner occupied,
Yeah.
et cetera, to, moving into this new phase of rental, short-term rentals and where we want to go with that. That's kind of, I think that's the initial part of today.
Absolutely.
And that off of that, I'll provide you the mechanisms to do so.
But the issue came up when I got a call 2 or 3 weeks ago. from One of your neighbors.
I wanted to
Okay,
comment.
and this house was sold for $640,000 to a gentleman. And it was outdated, the bathrooms and this and that, so the thought was he was gonna fix the bathrooms and flip it for $1 million. Well, the neighbor said he's lived there for 35 years. These are really nice homes. And there are several cars in the driveway and 15 people. One of the dining room was made into a bedroom to show you how they did all of this. And this man said it was noisy, drinking, I guess, and hollering and hooting and in the backyard of, so, and then 6 or 7 cars in the driveway. He said, this is a residential area. I paid this much money for my home. Now you're running a business there. What are you going to do? That's the dilemma. Now, Bill, it's your neighborhood. What do you think?
Well, in fact, just to build on that,
Got it.
this last weekend,
Yeah.
there were 13 cars. There is no resident in that home.
There's no resident in the house.
The garbage piles up out in the street, flowing out of the cans because there's no plan apparently. I mean, the renters aren't going to take care of it. And it's quickly going south. And our concern is, it may be planned for Lego land use, but
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things that happen. Teens, college kids getting in there.
Yeah.
There's no control. And this is a residential neighborhood with 9 houses on the street. It's going to be a problem.
So I just want to hop in real quick, and this is not to take away from your commentary. I believe, again, if we're doing procedurally, that should be held at the end of the
I
meeting.
know, but he asked me in the beginning of the meeting and I told him I'd have no problem with him interjecting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah.
So, then,
Okay.
sorry.
So I think there has to be some legislation on our part.
There's,
And you have some sample copies. Could you share them with
yeah,
us?
but they're not gonna,
And then we could,
I can, but they're really just the procedure. What you have to consider here is, let's take it from what we've already considered, which is the B&Bs, right? And if you look at the concept of bed and breakfast, and we have districts in this town for reasons, zoning the way we zone, right? So the bed and breakfasts are broken into, they're treated differently. The process of getting your permit is treated differently in different zones for obvious reasons that I don't think I need to speak of. I don't think conceptually we have to start with, do we want any Airbnbs? Okay, and if the answer is no to that, then we move on. If we're comfortable with it, the procedure to it may have to be separated by zoning, right? I mean, you may say that they're okay in this area and they're not in this area. And maybe you don't. Maybe you say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So me giving you a local law of how other municipalities have done it is certainly not going to be dispositive. And we have different challenges in the village of Goshen. There's their proximity from houses is a little closer, and spacing, and they may not have as large homes to worry about 16 people. Those are things for you all to digest and address. I will provide you whatever you want. I don't know that it's going to address the actual concern of whether you want these or not, and how to manage them going forward. If you treat them like a B&B, then that person has to be present, and there has to be certain things achieved, and permit has to be granted. Just because you have all those things in place doesn't mean you just get the permit per se, right? So you gotta have a permit. Go ahead, you can speak. So
No, I mean, you have a ton of issues here. I mean,
Yeah,
one is the sewer capacity. I mean,
well,
as what Bill just said, if 20 people are in that house, do they have the sewer capacity for that?
that person, but let me take a step back. If that person was present in that home, they can have 20 people over.
Yeah.
So we've got to be careful about speaking to it in that sense. It may not be what you want.
But they,
Next door to you.
if they're a B&B, they've gone through that process. Sean's looked at, that question has come up. They looked at the sewer system.
Well, we know they're gonna be having it.
So, I mean, if you look at it, if I'm at my house and I invite 20 of my cousins over, I understand that. But they're not coming every single weekend.
I get that, but there's like
Please,
a
they're
balance,
not
right?
coming
Well,
up
there's a balance of it. I
Right.
mean, there are people who are having people every weekend. Is it the
Yeah,
level of an
yeah,
Airbnb?
no.
I'm using it for
Yeah, I
exaggeration,
agree.
but
Yeah, I
Well,
got
let
you.
me give this real example, though. Here's this very nice neighborhood.
that's the cautionary thing. I don't want to get into whether the nice area.
No,
or not,
no, no,
because
no. It's a residential And they,
Okay, that's
they
different.
put their money out there to buy these kinds of homes, okay? Now, Bill was just saying there are 13 cars in the driveway, okay? And the neighbor next door said, I think I have to put my house up for sale. There's
But that can
noise.
go on anywhere. I just want to get, that's why I brought up the zoning on the
So
front end, the niceness of the home or why they bought the home is not something that is a part of the analysis.
Well, it's an investment.
That's fine, but it's an investment for everyone. I just cause, I would rather tuck it away in
Well, we'll say
zoning.
I
residential.
understand.
That's fine. I
Just say-
just want to make sure we're.
I'm just saying residential versus commercial. This is all of a sudden a commercial entity in this nice neighborhood that they've lived in for 35 years. It could be anywhere, okay? And so I've got a second call, by the way, Joe, on this. So it's a problem. And we don't have anything on the books to control this.
Rory.
This man does not live in the house. And so it is what it is.
Rory,
Yes,
excuse me, the village, are they allowing this?
it's a modified form of what they're allowing.
Oh,
There's an
oh,
application process. So I want to just address something that hasn't been addressed real quick, and Doug, you brought it up. is-
I'll just finish.
I'm sorry.
Well, yes, that's okay.
I
Just
just,
finish.
I didn't want that.
I had a mother daughter across the street from me. I have 11 houses on my street.
Yep.
And the people sold, and now they sold to someone from West Point. And now we have 4 or 5 families living. And every time the duty roster changes or whatever, there are new people.
Yep.
And there are cars and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's not a Airbnb, it's a mother-daughter, but.
Right.
So I'm.
You have the
just wanna-
same people coming in for an extended period of time.
no, they come in for a month or 2 months or
Yeah.
3 months, and then new people come
Come
in,
in,
and
right.
old people come. And, it's like, almost like Bill's situation, you
Yeah.
know, so.
Yeah, no one signed up for that. And I don't think that's, whether you have
They
a,
deploy, yeah.
so whatever home you
Yeah.
have in the town of Goshen, you didn't sign up to move into, a mini hotel next to, right? So
Yeah.
first thing I want to address is
Yeah,
what ones were, when I say aware of, put on notice by, when I get it to notice, we're clearly on notice about this property, I think it's Lakeview, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
so I think is that correct? So there's gonna be
Yeah.
a communication, correspondence from the town attorney to that property owner advising that they are not in compliance with
Right.
what is necessary, but there's nothing for them to be compliant with unless they go through a bed and breakfast. We have to be realistic that the traditional bed and breakfast has changed. And are we gonna adapt to it? And if we are, how are we gonna adapt to it? So right now, those properties are not in compliance with the town code, and they're gonna be made aware of that. And they're
Yeah.
gonna be ordered to cease and desist, essentially. There's the mechanisms in which to do so were being sifted through, and I got to meet with Neil and Joe and talk about how we were gonna approach it, make sure that it was done the proper way, but it also raised the issue of, well, do we want to have this thing? So
but that's a commercial piece of property, isn't it?
no, that's
No.
not, no, it's a,
Lakeview?
It's a residential area.
Lakeview. Well,
no, not the
Reservoir
Lakeview,
Road.
not
Oh,
Cabela's
I'm
old
sorry,
place,
sorry,
not Albert's old place.
That's what I'm talking
No,
about, Albert's old place.
I was
That would
talking
be
about
Lakeview.
the
I'm
street.
like, that's a
the
restaurant.
street. My
Okay,
apologies.
okay, I got you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that would be a perfect Airbnb. So-
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have some genuine concerns about safety of the people in there.
Yeah,
The police have stressed that they have no idea who the people are that are in there. They get a call that, they're not showing up to Bill's house, they're showing
Sure.
up to Bill's rental, and who's in Bill's rental. They think they're walking to the door to this nice gentleman that lived in the town for his whole life, and they pull up and there's, whoever there,
right.
and not
Toga
prepared
party.
for it.
So what's that?
Toga party.
Yeah.
We're on the same
I was,
page,
uh,
I think.
I mean, it's a dangerous situation in my mind. It
Yeah,
really
so
is.
we're, when we're not, I don't know where our role is to go out and necessarily find these violators, but certainly when it's brought to our attention, it puts the town on notice, it should be forwarded to me.
We have a couple more.
Okay, so then,
You can just go on Airbnb.
well, I
There's
don't
one
know
of
that
them.
I'm gonna, I think if we,
So.
then, we've been
we-
driving around, we like driving around, we talked about this.
No,
It's a-
no, I understand that, but I guess for the purposes tonight, we need to determine whether we are in agreement that we're going to not vote on it tonight, but look at adapting a
Yeah,
policy for Airbnbs, or we're not interested in
I
that.
think Phil's got, I'm gonna get you guys what I have collected from the local municipalities that were kind enough to share their information, some of that's publicly available, provide everybody, and so you can start to get an idea what other similarly situated communities have done.
But if-
Monroe is a good example. I mean,
But if we are of the mind that we don't care for that type
it
of
could be a
thing.
blanket
No,
rejection.
no, do we need to enact a law prohibiting that?
No,
Okay,
no, they just, every time they pop up, we would have to.
we can
sign off.
enforce it.
Yeah, we'd enforce it, because we already have something in place where they can come,
Okay,
an Airbnb can present themselves
Well,
as a
Airbnb
B&B,
is
you know?
we're talking, about. I mean,
The idea of an Airbnb, Phil, is that there's not.
B&B
an
has a
owner.
process.
right,
But the distinction
Okay.
is generally a B&B, the owner's present on site, or a
Right.
caretaker that then has an obligation to do X, Y, and Z. An Airbnb, the reason, it's understood that the owner is not present.
right.
You know,
okay.
it's, so that's a real clear distinction. And, you know, the internet is crazy.
So we don't need a law to
Right now,
prohibit.
right now, no, because
Okay.
if you take the current, the Lakeview or the other ones, they're in violation.
Okay,
Because they did
good.
not come
So-
before
Got
the board to get
So-
the proper permit, or there's
Yeah.
some that don't require a permit, they require, sorry.
So to put Bill at ease tonight, so he can go home and put his head on the pillow,
Yeah.
we're aware of it. We
Yeah.
are sending a letter out to them.
Yeah, you might have to survive one more weekend, because it's gonna go by certified mail, and I was
Yeah,
being
that's good.
sarcastic.
So-
I was being-
And then
But I
we're
mean,
also,
the enforcement.
just so you know, we're also putting the company Airbnb on notice, because we have something in our code that says we can take all of the proceeds generated from this house while they're in violation.
Okay, and that's,
So,
so,
we-
yeah,
Go
no, I was just saying, that's, you know, you guys will see the letters going out, Neil is
Okay.
aware
Can I
from a
see
code
the-
enforcement and,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
everybody will
everybody,
see
that's fine, absolutely, Doug,
Yeah.
you raised the issue, it's great, it's something that was a kind of an elephant in the room floating out there, and now it's here in front of
I
us.
think we're on.
It segues great into the next agenda item too,
Yeah,
so.
next.
Okay.
Right, next.
so we're gonna table that discussion until we get the documentation from Rory on the other municipalities and
Rory,
make a
thank you.
determination
Yeah,
on.
absolutely.
We are going to start looking at every complaint that comes in and notifying the Airbnb owners that they are in
Send them to Doug
violation.
Bloomfield.
What?
Yeah.
Send them all the time.
Doug's the guy.
Doug, you can't rent out your barn.
If they don't mind horses or something, they're with
Yeah.
them.
All right, next discussion on the agenda is the discussion of enacting a hotel tax. We have them,
That came from Neil,
Doug,
right?
Doug,
it did not come from there, no. What?
So anyway, the hotel tax as we
Yeah.
Right.
presently structured, you know, there are a number of, again, municipalities, and I think it's like, if the segue was perfect here, the Airbnb stuff. You know, there's people making money in our town, and like anybody else who, you know, that's going on, and there's a taxable option to it, it should be explored, but it also goes along with Goshen hospitality. Golden, I'm drawing a blank on Golden's, what's the other project
The
that's?
project on 17B,
Yeah.
on 17M, yep.
So my apologies for forgetting it, but we haven't had these issues before the town in the past, right? Legoland's raised it, and they're in under their pilot program and contract, which is worth discussion. There's potential, they want another hotel, Goshen Hospitality, this
Oh,
project on
okay.
17M. And then the Airbnbs, if we choose to potentially allow them, or whether we should be, the B&Bs that are in place should be subject to any hotel tax, whether
Yeah.
that, so,
We wrestled with this issue before.
yeah, it's a,
We did, many times. I know the county, I think, has one that thing.
The county has one,
Yes.
and certain municipalities have one. It has to be approved by the governor's office, I understand.
Yeah.
So we'd have to petition the governor's office to allow for a local tax.
it seems like, you know, and again, I'm reacting to it, but with Legoland in the backyard, some of the things that have gone on, the way Orange County's expanded from,
Right.
and you look at the hotels, you used to have to go to 211, and that was
Yeah.
your only option, right? Now every town's got one. There's one in Washington or Blooming
Yeah.
Grove, you know, and so I think it's time that we have to address it.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
So,
and I can get you the same thing, I can give you comparative
If you
analysis,
don't
what
mind,
other
yeah.
municipalities have done.
Yeah.
What they're charging.
Yeah.
You know, and who they're applying it to, so that we can have at least a baseline
Yeah.
of where where to start and where our
Every
analysis.
place I go.
Or
I
what the
pay a hotel
particular,
tax.
Yeah.
what the particular
Yeah.
procedure is to notify the governor
Right.
and request.
And if we're
Okay.
successful, or if that was something we want to do, and what is our range that we're able to apply, and then who doesn't
Right,
apply to, which is something that I don't, that we need to get into tonight, but
Yeah.
should be discussed about.
Yep.
Okay.
some
Great.
other-
Okay.
All right, finance, the easy portion. Discuss and approve a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay the accounts payable check run on May 12th in the amount of $66,416. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Discuss and approve a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay workers' comp claims in the amount of $1,853.22.
so moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Information, Christine Cavallari submitted a monthly financial from 12/31/21 to 3/31/22. See the attached.
Wow.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It was 12/31 and not through, and 3/31.
And 3:30.
And
Yeah, with
3/31, I
balance
apologize.
sheets.
Yep. Okay,
Let me get some-
approve the year-to-date budget transfer requested by the budget officer dated May 12th, 2022. A motion, yes, please.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Information, Christine Cavallari conducted an accounts payable audit on May 12th, 2022. That is in here.
He's doing a good job, I swear to goodness. That's a lot of paper, but it's a lot of.
All right. We've gone through everything. I'm gonna open the floor to the residents of Goshen. Bob, any questions,
Yeah, I
concerns?
just want to say one thing. I don't know where you get all this authority to come down on Airbnbs and all this stuff. This has been a place for 30 years. Multiple residents, residential neighborhood. No one's ever done a thing about
Mhm.
it. So I don't know how all of a sudden you can get this authority.
Well, I don't
What's
know.
the-
I don't think I mean, I don't know of any transient, daily houses that have been up for rent anywhere. I
Well,
mean,
I've been in this position for 5 months. This is the first time something's
I'm
been.
just bringing up history.
I
I'm just
don't
telling
want-
you for 30 years.
So-
What are we
no one
alluding,
has
what are
been
we
able
alluding
Do
to?
anything about a multiple dwelling in a residential house. in a
Are we
single
talking
family
about
house.
what Phil raised, or are we talking about Airbnbs? I'm not being sarcastic. I don't know. You're alluding to something that maybe it's over my
yeah,
head.
what is your question
A
and what is your
multiple
concern?
dwelling
Okay,
In a residential building.
Mhm.
Single family residential building, in a residential neighborhood.
I think that what we have this
When you
time,
bring that up.
Bob, it's in excess of what we've lived with in the past. This is, I mean, for example,
There's
this,
10 cars out in front,
Right.
and some of them have gone up to their access.
think-
It's
I
right
think-
on the main road, you all know where it is.
no, I don't.
Well, I'm sure you do, it's on Craigville Road. It's right around the corner from. you.
all right. I'm not, and again, I'm not
I
playing,
know-
I
not
know
playing
for a
coy.
fact, people have even put a complaint in the last month.
That's not reached my desk. If it does, then
To
I,
who? Did they complain to us?
Oh, well, they just told me he was up here complaining. Maybe the building inspector. But that's besides, it's been there 30 years. And I know people on the street have complained about it. People on Craigville have complained.
I don't even know what it is, so.
I'm not, I might have stopped in the building inspector's office and not putting it on him.
Yeah.
This particular situation is me advising these parties they're not in compliance with the code. What Neil does with it after that, or the police do with it after that is outside.
Well,
But if something like that,
you could do that and then nothing happens.
that is very, listen, you're not
Well,
wrong.
I'm concerned. I'd like to know who this is because I drive that road every day and I've never seen
I don't know.
12 cars. I mean, I come down Knoll Road, make the right onto Craigville and then the left onto Houston.
Oh, you were going home.
Yeah, no, we're going out to Otter Hill or coming back. That's the way I go.
Oh, yeah.
Try to stay out of the village. But we're relative to Knoll Road and Craigville.
Just end the meeting.
Excuse me?
Why don't we just end the meeting?
Okay.
Can I get a motion to close the meeting?
I got two questions.
All right, George,
Two questions for you. We talked about maybe possibly starting a work session.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I apologize.
And so there's some thought that, because like some of these dialogues and discussions that we have, like the JRC, maybe we would start one of
Need
our
further
meetings
work session.
at 6:30 or 6 o'clock, and then have the regular meeting starting at 7:30, so we can discuss some of the issues. I think that's a good idea. Well, I mean, we used to have.
Are we
several
gonna-
We
days
would
of
need
work
to
sessions.
limit the amount of discussions we have because some of them,
Right. because
we have to
it's-
look at the particular discussion and say,
Yeah, not
talking
everything
about
is
go
subject.
back is
Well,
gonna
no,
take
as
the
long as it's
entire
open to the
hour.
public, it's okay.
Yeah, it's open to the public.
So,
Right.
yeah. you
Except
can
if we go
put
into
the
executive
agenda on
session
it.
for some reason,
Right.
right?
Well, my
Right,
concern was making sure that Rick was capable of getting here at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll do my best whenever we have to.
And are we doing it once a month
Yeah,
or twice a
month.
month?
Once a month. Once a month, we'll have a
Once a
work
month,
session.
our first meeting of the month, we'll
Correct,
do a work session before that.
correct.
Starting at 6 o'clock? Is that what
Correct.
you said?
at 6?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Yeah.
6. Yeah.
You gonna be okay, Rory, or 6:30?
Yeah, I'm
6:30?
wondering what the
It'll
necessity
depend
for
on
an
the
hour and a
time.
half.
For an hour and a half,
session is.
right.
Why not? If that's-
6:30.
So
Because we just did 2 hours tonight,
Right, but
6:30 is probably,
6:30.
6:30.
if we're only doing it once a month,
yeah,
it wouldn't, look,
yeah.
I have my thoughts on it, but I'm not a
Well, let's
board
hear
member.
I'm
so
coming, I'm gonna
If
show
you're
up
gonna
at
tell me to be
6:30.
here for an hour and a half, I'll be here.
6:30 first.
All right, 6:30.
We'll try it at 6:30.
Let's try it at
versus
6:30 and
More
we'll
fun.
determine whether it needs to be
Yeah.
later or earlier. based on that first agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
And then the last thing I want to know is what happened with the grant, with the stretch to zero?
She's working it through.
The application must have been.
The
you know, she-
application was submitted.
So-
It was submitted?
Yeah.
Yep,
Which
application was
grant is
completely submitted.
This was the one
Do I need a motion for a work session? I'm
Okay.
sorry.
To create a
Yeah.
work session?
Yeah.
I don't know the
No,
answer.
I don't think so.
that? No. I just
No,
got
I
it.
don't think so.
You gotta.
No, we're just gonna-
you
we're gonna
gotta
change
follow
it. Okay,
Just put it on the
Public-
schedule.
public
Put it-
notice.
We're gonna change the time of the meeting at the first meeting of the month at start at
If you
6:30.
can't do,
Can I-
you know what? Hold on, what's
Oh,
the-
all right.
Can I get a motion?
Make sure
Can I get a min-
If you're changing.
So I move that we close the
Motion to
meeting.
close the meeting?
I move that we close the meeting.
Second,
I got a second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Close the meeting.
Wait, wait,
Yep.
wait,
I'm not waiting.
wait.
Yes.
Wait.
I'm waiting.
Hey, Joe, did you talk to anybody about the salt?
I did. Yeah.
You're still on.
Well, I went over there with him. I mean, the pictures don't do justice. The